It's alright, alright, alright. Listen, babe. Oh, yeah. 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 It's alright, alright, alright.
How y'all doing? You will be surprised to know that me and Nana are still in the same room. It's just camera tricks right now. But we gonna get down today. We gonna go through some really pivotal, critical ways of thinking that can help change how you view not only yourself but entrepreneurship as a whole. So I want to get right into it. Let's hit the first slide. The blind man and the elephant. Is the paragraph in here too?
Yeah, next slide.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if any show of hands of people who've heard about this illustration, this fable before. Anybody? Two? Perfect. It's the story of the blind man and the elephant. So this is a fable that was started in India probably thousands of years ago, but it's pertinent to what we're doing and what we're talking about today. So let's go. Shabisha.
A king calls for the blind men of the capital to be brought to his palace. He has an elephant brought in and asks the men to describe it. The king asks the blind men, "Can you tell me what sort of thing is an elephant?" One man who felt the elephant's head says it's like a large pot. Another who felt the tail says it's like a rope. Another who felt the ear says it is like a hand fan. Another who felt the side says it is like a wall. More blind men are called, and they say that it is like a pillar, a pipe, and so on. Each describes a different part of the elephant based on his personal experience. The blind men begin to argue and come to blows, each asserting that he is right and the others are wrong.
Okay. So, how does this apply to entrepreneurship? Basically, anytime you approach a situation, a lot of times we assert our right and wrongness, right? And most of the times we assert our right and wrongness, we are always just touching one part of the elephant. And as entrepreneurs, we're going to understand further and dig deeper into the idea and the fact that that's where our limiting beliefs are, and that's what's limiting us in life. So let me go a little bit further. And that's all the beliefs that you hold currently, ones you hold dear to, tight, are the ones that's giving you the life you have now. All your beliefs that you hold currently are the ones that are giving you the life you have now. And a lot of times we'll fight those beliefs like our life's dependent on it when it comes down to arguing whether or not our beliefs are right with the other person or not. Not realizing that every single time we do that, we're only touching the tail of an elephant. So we're going to introduce a philosophy and an idea, a way of thinking that's going to open up so many doors for you in terms of how you think, how you see shit, how you move, how you play, how you operate in a world where you're not limited anymore. As black folks, most of our beliefs and the way we are limited as black people comes down to those beliefs. Somebody's just hugging on the leg of the elephant. And we're blind. And let's go to the next slide. The thing is, we are all blind. So a lot of people want the solution to be, well, I want to be able to see. We're all blind, so I want to be able to see. Here's the issue. We don't have the luxury of being able to see. All we have is what we can feel in our current area, and we have to rely on our way of thinking in order to find the rest of the elephant in life. Have you ever been like 2 cars behind somebody and motherfucker starts slowing down, super slowing down? And you're like, man, what the fuck? And you honk, realize it's a little old lady walking across that first person that you couldn't see. Yeah, raise your, yeah. Thank you, Kaja, for admitting that shit. Who else? Yeah, Shabisha do. We all have done it because we were rubbing on just one part of the elephant and we knew we was right. We hopped on that train of something's wrong with that person in front of us and I'm about to honk at you to let you know you need to move, not realizing we had more parts of the elephant that we had to see and we can't. So here's the thing, our beliefs, again, are bound by those beliefs. I mean, our lives are bound by those beliefs. In one lifetime, we're not going to be able to know every single solitary thing on this planet in order for us to be successful. You have to rely on what we call liminal thinking. And that's the next slide, I believe. Oh, no, it's next coming up. We have to rely on what we call liminal thinking. Because a lot of us who are stuck in the right and wrong stuff, when something's just blatantly obvious, like those are the people who get manipulated the most. When you think something is blatantly obvious, then it's easier for you to be manipulated because there's certain things that kick in. Here's one. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's the base levels, 3 of them, but the lowest level one is the Dunning-Kruger effect. And what that means is certain people will take a tiny bit of knowledge, little bit of knowledge, and they run with that shit. They'll teach a class on it, they'll write a book on it, they'll get on YouTube, Instagram, and tell everybody how to do it. And they'll live and die by it, only knowing it. And the thing is, they may have a little bit of success at it. They may get a little bit of success, a little hype, and so that even fuels it even more. And they run in with a small bit of knowledge, and they'll build a whole crowd around it. That's happening right now in China, where martial arts, certain martial art practices that are ancient, some thousands of years old. And over time, those things have gotten glamorized and they've gotten romanticized and they've lost the effectiveness of the martial art. Like, can I whoop somebody's ass with this? That's the question. But instead, people got caught up in the beauty of the moves and shit. So you have all these different beautiful martial arts. And so when MMA came, there's MMA fighters in China that said, I challenge all the other martial arts. And it's people who stepping up, you know, different masters who are stepping up, and they're caught in the romanticization of this beautiful martial art, and they're getting their asses kicked by MMA fighters. Because they took one piece of the elephant, made themselves an expert out of it, got popular from it, and they forgot that there's a whole other elephant around this whole shit that I can get my ass kicked by somebody who knows more. What MMA is they go to the leg and say, give me your best stuff. They go to the tail, give me your best stuff. They go to the head, give me your best stuff. Go to the ear, give me, and they go around the whole elephant taking the best of all the different fighting techniques, and they make it into one. And that's entrepreneurship as a whole. So the thing is, the best way to cure yourself from this is to admit that you're blind. You gotta admit that you're blind. You gotta admit that you're only seeing the world in a tiny sliver. Got to. It takes humility to do that. It takes curiosity to do that. But that's the first way to get a bigger bag. It's the best way to get a bigger bag. Let's go to the next slide. Now, so all you arguers out there, you argue, you got to argue every fucking thing. All you're doing is arguing that your elephant is the whole elephant. So you got to change your oars to end. One way to cure is you got to change your oars to end. And some of these philosophies are super simple. Super simple. You might go over your head. But if you change your ors to and, you're going to stop fighting so much, arguing with people so much, fighting your point so much. Because at the end of the day, you could be saying, oh shit, I'm touching the leg and you're touching the ear. So from my vantage point and my perspective is right, and from yours is too. So maybe we can continue and connect these dots. So if you caught in the right and wrong, you caught in the right and wrong game, and that's your if you view that belief system as a successful one for you, you got to know you're limited. You're limiting yourself. Next slide. So, liminal thinking, the definition of it is occupying a position at or on both sides of a boundary or threshold. Which means, as an entrepreneur, how you move is you're going to move different. Somebody gives you their opinion, that could be. It could. Shit, that could work. Somebody tells you what they believe, that's interesting. Let me look into that. That's an interesting perspective on things or on thoughts or on ideas, on how to make money, on what a Democrat is or what a Republican is. Now, what marketers do and what the world tends to do in terms of how to move the crowd and move sheep is they got to get a rise out of you emotionally. And one of the best ways to get a rise is engaging in polarized thinking. So they create presuppositions for you so that you get polarized on your opinions. So what that means is I can say if I'm running an ad, if I'm a Democrat and I'm running an ad because I want to fuel the Democrats, I'll say, does it bother you that the Republicans continue to run their states and still have these racist statues up of leaders that were against freedom for the slaves? Does it bother you? And you're like, what? Absolutely, it bothers me. Because what they're doing is they're saying, yeah, come on this side. I need to push that button to rile you up to bring you on this side. That absolutely has very little to do on whether policies, procedures, laws, everything, anything benefits you. So lack of liminal thinking is what allows us to control the crowd. With liminal thinking, it allows you to this gives you a damn near superpower. Because you can move with the philosophy that says there's always a way. There's always a way. Why can you say that so confidently? There's always a way. Because with liminal thinking, there's so many possibilities that can bubble forth from an idea, a thought, a plan that can allow you to just pull from, because you're not bound by any one or two beliefs. Second thing, first one, a low level, Dunning-Kruger. Second one, confirmation bias. What confirmation bias says is that I'm only gonna fuck with people who agree with my shit. And I'm gonna run from anybody who disagrees with my shit. And my crowd is only gonna be the crowd that gives me these. Good job, that's it, you're right. Good job, that's it, you're right. It's the worst thing you can do as an entrepreneur. Because again, if you can admit that you blind, you'll realize why that's a bad idea. Because you know you moving with a blind spot. Again, let's get back in the car. Have you ever driven a car down a highway 80 miles an hour? 80 miles an hour, you smashing. You look through your rearview mirror. You look through your right mirror because you're about to get over. Nothing there. You start to merge, and the car next to you honks, and they almost spin out of control. Am I the only one that's done that? Okay, thank you for the hands, cuz. Thank you for the hands. That means you're rubbing on a portion of the elephant. That's your blind spot. You would not have risked your fucking life, because you could have died, and so could a person you hit, if you didn't think you were 100% right. Right? You wouldn't have risked your life if a portion of you didn't believe that you was 100% right. But that's the power. That's what's happening in your life. That's what's happening in your business. That's what's happening all around us. Is blind spots like that every fucking where, everywhere. So the best cure for it is to know that you have it. Humbles you a little bit, makes you a little less cocky, a little less arrogant, because you know that I'm looking around and I know I'm missing something. Guess what? It's a phone call. I can call somebody. Hey, this is what I'm about to do. What you think? Pastor Chris called us. No, when we went on our trip, he was like, hey, this is what I'm about to do. What you guys think? Me and Nana was like, nah, cuz, that ain't it. You know what makes him powerful? The fact that he does that. The fact that he does it. Even if it doesn't, it goes against his feelings. What y'all telling me right now, I ain't feeling that shit. That ain't it, because that's not how they are. No, he's a good dude. Or, no, like it's, and we like, yeah, that's cool, but nah, that ain't it. From my perspective, that ain't it. The fact that he does that is saying, I'm practicing liminal thinking. I know. Right now, I looked around, I looked through my rear view, I looked through, and everything's a go. Everything's good. I should be straight. Wait, before I make this turn, let me phone a friend. Hey, what you think about this? I'm about to make this turn. What you think? Hey, I'm 2 cars behind you. It's a car right there, bro. Don't do it. No, I just saw. Don't do it. Hold on, wait. Why don't you slow down a little bit so you can see that person get into your rear view? Oh, shit. Thank you. You just saved my life. That's that's resources. We are all blind. We are all blind. That's why being here is important. And not only being here, being vulnerable enough to put your shit out there. Say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. All right, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to do it anyway. All right, well, then here's some advice for you if you do it anyway. I would do X, Y, and Z. This is my opinions, my advice. That's why I said earlier, we all in that, I don't want to talk about money. I'm scared to talk about my numbers. I'm scared. Liminal thinking, that's not liminal thinking. You're stuck. You're putting your blind spots out there even more. Because we might be like, that don't make no sense. Those numbers are kind of weird. Have you checked so-and-so? And that could be something devastating to your business, that you could plug that hole and now you profitable. Third thing is a thing called naive reality. That's the highest level. Naive reality. What naive reality is, it's for our super smart people. People who read all the books and super intellectual and they know all the shit and they can break down everything. I can tell you about your life and what you're going through and your thinking and everything backwards and forwards. You think I was psychic. It's just as dangerous as the other two. You know why? Because you can talk yourself in and out of any position because you have all the knowledge. You have a lot of the knowledge. Still not realizing that you still only know a small sliver of shit. And that's, so that takes another exercise. We've been reading books daily since 2007, right? So much so that when I read a new book, I can tell who their influences were. I can tell who they knocked off, what books they shit from, because we read so many books. So that you can also, now you're a victim. You're at the mercy of your own ego. You understand what I'm saying? When you get to that level, you're at the mercy of your own ego. Because if your ego is like, we the shit, then the decisions you make is going to be based on that, because anybody can come at you and you can shut them down. You can kill them with knowledge, with this, with that, with that. So now ain't nobody going to come for you. Ain't nobody going to challenge you. Everybody's scared. So now it's just you on your own intellectual island, and that's dangerous. So those are the three things that like can be blind spots for us as you mature through this, because you're gonna be on this book, you're gonna be on this journey of reading books and bettering yourself. And every level, there's dangers. You never get there. We'll never get there in no lifetime to where we like, yeah, I know everything. I know everything. When we croak and we pushing up dust, daisies, whatever the fuck we pushing up, or if you happen to be in hell or heaven, don't matter. Your lifetime is only going to be made up of a super small portion of what you know. Your power comes in liminal thinking. Liminal thinking says, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? What do you know? We could take over the world once we join forces with what we know. There's no amount of knowledge one person can know alone to make impact. Liminal thinking says, I don't know everything, but this is what I know. And even that is up to being changed, questioned, upgraded at any moment. At any moment. I ain't got no problem moving my shit around to get better. But what do you know? Oh, that's dope. I never heard it that way before. What do you know? I disagree completely, but give me more. I want to know. Tell me. Let me go read that. Let me look that up. Let me see how that applies. That's how we change the world. If any of you guys have been here for a long time, few years, you know that, and if you applied any of the stuff you've read, that's liminal thinking, because what that is you've admitted to yourself, I don't know everything. Shit, I ain't got it. Nana, what do you got? What you know? You say, I don't know everything either, but this one thing I know that's helped me here. And you're like, oh shit, this is the one I needed. Thank you. What do you know? Well, this is what I hear. Now you create such synergy amongst groups that's how when we see other cultures performing, and we like, well, why we ain't doing shit? Liminal thinking. Liminal thinking. Let's go to the next slide. So, imagine now that you used to only have one door you walk through mentally as an entrepreneur. What liminal thinking does now, it gives you 15 doors. 15. And then those doors can give you 15 until you just get the answers and the results that you want. A lot of us are stuck on right and wrong. The right way, the perfect way, the most flawless way, all that shit. It don't exist. How the perfect way exists and you ain't perfect? How a way exists with no flaws and you flawed inherently? It doesn't. But guess what? If I'm flawed by 20% and you flawed by 20%, when we come together, we can only just use the good shit. Nobody got to see the other 40 that didn't work. You feel me? So It, it is so important for you this class forward. You don't take another one, just understand this. This is one of the most pivotal ways of thinking that can change you. If you use the word hate a lot, lack of liminal thinking. I hate these people. I hate that. I hate this. I hate that. I hate that. Well, let's get to understand. Let's get to understand that. Their viewpoint, their perspective, their focus, because you might can soak some game from them. You might can soak some game. What can you extract? What good can you extract? I told you guys when I was on my grind to get better, I was going to all these fucking seminars and they was trash, super trash. And so I'd sit there and be like, just wasted my money again. I just wasted my money again. But then I'm like, fuck it. If I can walk away with one thing, instead of thinking like that, I'm think like this. If I can walk away with one thing, then I gained something. And if I apply it, it wasn't an absolute loss. It was some kind of win. And if I go to 5 trash seminars, at least I got 5 nuggets that I can use to improve my business, my life, my whatever. It's liminal thinking. So to successful entrepreneurs, right and wrong is a major distraction. Here's another key. If you all up in people's comments, I might get a couple of y'all pissed off. But if y'all all through social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and you fighting your points in the comments, well, see, he shouldn't have did that, and then you arguing with other commenters, lack of liminal thinking, you tripping, you distracted. How much time did you lose doing that? Boiling over, and then you like, I'm gonna fix my thumbs to write some shit to somebody I don't know or give a fuck about, and they don't give a fuck about me. So all I'm losing in this moment is this 15 minutes. And what is your worth per hour? Is $100, $200, $1,000, $3,000? Then you just lost some racks over some dumb shit nobody gives a fuck about. Distractions is really the killer of our success. Anybody, any culture, it's distractions. That's it. Everybody got the same 24 hours. I don't give a fuck who, what, where, billionaire down to homeless. We all got the same 24 hours. What are we doing with it? So most of our right and wrongness will get us in debates and arguments and fights that are meaningless. Because at the end of the day, what did we solve? What did we do? How we move? If Kaja is triggered because I said something that made her emotionally triggered and she's angry, and now we go at it, is there anything I can say to her to get her to be like, you know what, Court, you're right? Not what she's triggered. The first step is let's get you calmed down so that we can have good dialogue and hear each other's points. If you triggered in right and wrong, I'm wasting my time. The first thing anything out my mouth from that point forward is a fucking waste of both of our times. So remember, right and wrong is a distraction. Who are you right and wrong with, and where is this going? Liminal thinking says, and in like most religions, the goal was to meet the person where they were and take them where they wanted them to go. Meet them where they are and take them where you want them to go. Fuck the distraction. I'm gonna sit here and tell you, because I can just see the steam come off you the minute I see it. And you might later, if you conscious enough, contemplate, reason on it, and come back and be like, you know what, that person is right. Let's go to the next slide. So, take something like capitalism. Take something like capitalism. And I want to hand you guys the mic. And I want somebody to answer what's on the other side of those dots. When I say capitalism is, who wants to answer?
Necessary?
Necessary. Jordan? I saw Jordan in his hand. Necessary.
I have more than one word.
Go ahead. What you got?
Taking advantage of somebody's disadvantage.
Taking advantage of somebody's disadvantage. So I got a necessary, and I got capitalism is taking advantage of someone's disadvantage.
Structure.
Capitalism is structure. Okay.
Power.
Power. Any others?
Something we all participate in every day.
Something we all participate in every day. Who's right?
I got one too.
Go ahead.
A double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword. A double-edged sword. What is it? Can you go more in depth of the?
It has its benefits, but it also has its negatives as well.
All right. Which answer is right? Which answer is more right? Which answer is the most right? Any comments? Any answers?
I'm just saying all of them. It's all perspective.
She said all of them is all perspective. So guess what? You have people who are heavy against capitalism, right? They go hard against capitalism because they believe in socialism, some other isms, right? Because they believe equal fairness. Everybody should have equal fairness across the board. But we had answers of that went from necessary all the way to taking advantage of people. But you know who believed in fairness and equal across the board and went super hard and instituted a new way? The Communist Party. That's how communism was built. Fuck the rich. They got too much money. Poor. It's unfair. You can look that shit up. So understand the danger of polarity. When you only go to one side, it can get dangerous. Perspective is everything. Best way to have liminal thinking is also get into that person's shoes. I wonder what would make you think that. Tell me where that comes from. Help me understand how you think. I want to put myself in your shoes so I can see how you could see that. Oh shit! Let me stand where you standing. Oh shit! I can see that too. From perspective is a motherfucker. That's a note. You can write that down. Perspective is a motherfucker. Because in every different particular area on the globe, something's different is happening on the same earth. In China right now, it's 10 a.m. They eating breakfast. They eating breakfast right now in China. Just woke up, started they 2 hours into starting their day. We don't even think about shit like that.
The Chinese nana just woke up.
You had a question, because I want to get questions before we move on. Okay. Any questions?
First of all, thanks for explaining this, because I think maybe the real definition didn't land with me when I listened to the first chapter. and I understand the point about right and wrong. I wonder what your perspective is on where that lands with resonating. Like sometimes someone will give me a piece of information, like you said, you and I gave Pastor Chris a piece of information. And maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, we don't know. But as the person who has to carry it out, I have to do what resonates with me the most. I'm prepared for it to be wrong or right because my stakes are low right now. Then I can live with the consequence. If it was the right thing to do, great. If I should have taken your advice, I'm completely fine to come back and say, I should have did what you told me. You were 100% right. But I trust myself enough to live with the outcome, positive or not. But sometimes that comes across like you're taking in feedback and you're not using it. But when someone gives you feedback, it's up to you what you want to do with it. Or if anything.
Okay, thank you for that. So, yes, you a grown-ass woman. Grown-ass woman, you pay the bills in your own house. Shit, we don't pay your bills, right? That is a truth. Another truth is you want more than what you have right now. You want to grow and expand. You want to advance. You want to get better. You want to get from where you are to a different place. And the questions that you have are, you're saying, I have a blind spot. Basically what you're saying. You're saying, hey, I want to get from A to B, but I'm kind of stuck. I looked around in all my mirrors and everything looks clear, but I can't get there. What's up? What do you see? And ego says, if your ego is turned up, the volume of ego turns up. Because here's a deal with resonation, is that what resonates with you is already embedded with you. So if I tell you something that resonates with you, you already agree with it. That tingly good feeling of resonation is saying, I knew that. Yeah, see, I knew that. But what you want is outside of what you know. So it ain't going to resonate a lot of the times. It is not going to resonate. A lot of the times, it's going to be like, man, what the fuck did you just say? Man, fuck that. I don't agree with that. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. So then you're going to go in your room and introspect and then say, so he said this, he said that, he says that, but this is what resonated with me. So I'm going to go here. And now you in the same fucking rat trap you was in before. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying that's the real shit.
Can I add to that? Couple of things. So first of all, let's be very clear. The goal of Hope Academy this year is to really leverage wisdom over knowledge. Knowledge without wisdom is just a whole bunch of information you can't use. And when you get into wisdom, you got to bring the word context. If you're defensive and you're looking for, like, if you're a defensive person and using, like, you're moving through this business world from a defensive mindset, then right versus wrong, which is a defensive undertone, and even if you try to open up and you're still defensive, it's still coming in through defensive gates. So you're kind of saying, well, what if it's wrong? Well, what if it's all defensive undertone? Offense is, once somebody gives me information, if it's different than anything I thought, it deserves research. It deserves the person giving you advice to have facts to back up their position. The person says, and if a person doesn't have facts, they just says, I think, and you feel like, that's, I don't agree with that, but let me just look that up. Because you have to know, like Corey just said, your limitations is your beliefs. And so what you feel and what you believe, we got to stop stamping that as, I got to be authentic to what I feel. Like, moving forward, doing something you never did before is never going to feel authentic. It's going to feel counterintuitive quite often. And so in this case here, anytime you go to somebody for some insider advice, you're not going to them also to be the grand master that knows all. You're going to them to say, hey, I touched the ear of the elephant. What have you touched? I touched the tail. What What was your experience from touching the tail? Well, this was my experience. Well, how did you know it was a tail? Well, this is how I knew it was a tail. How many times have you touched the tail? Oh, this many times. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go home, Google, what is it like to touch the tail of an elephant? Right? And then when I go to the next person I talk to, I say, hey, listen, I touched the ear. Some people told me about touching the tail. What's your thought? And then I'm able to start to pull on the resources of people around me because I'm thinking about offensively building a solution, right? And I'm also not saying to myself that I have to hero all of the answers. That once I take off on this journey, at some point, I won't have the answers. And I have to know how to pull those answers in. And it is certain points when you go in a company, you hire people that's smarter than you. Well, you don't know what the fuck they're doing. And so there's a point, so that separation, this is the beginning of that stage, is separating yourself from being the hero of every decision you make and realize that making great decisions is resourcing the solutions.
Excellent point. What we want is outside of us. So it's going to feel weird. What resonates with you is inside your comfort zone. I think you guys should write that down. What resonates with you is inside your comfort zone. And whatever you have in life is in your comfort zone. So his point is excellent, is that a lot of the advice we get, it has to come with receipts for sure. Okay, well, what gives you the authority to say that? Here's my experience, this is what I've done. Okay, cool. But just know that a lot of times, if it's something that's outside of where you are, it's more than likely not going to resonate. It's going to feel weird. But then with practice and repetition, now you have resonation. You see what I'm saying? Have you ever done, like whatever your area expertise is, have you ever gotten to the flow where it was just like magic? It was just magic. You weren't even consciously thinking about it. You ever felt that feeling? Whether playing sports, cooking, doing whatever your craft is. Now, if you go back to the very first time you did it, did you feel like that? No, hell no. If it was weird, it was right, 2 left feet. It didn't resonate at all. Some of you was like, I don't know if I'm gonna do this. This ain't it. But it was the repetition that created resonation. And it was the getting out of your comfort zone and trying that created the resonation. So that should be a good telltale sign of you. Almost like when something doesn't resonate with me and I feel weird about it, that's why I love talking to him. Because I don't like being around people who agree with me all the time. I don't like that. That's whack. It's weak. And I feel like a weak man. I want to, you're either going to shore up my ideas or I'm going to create some new ones, which it's a win-win either way. And when some shit hits me, I hella don't like that. Well, A, why you so emotional, motherfucker, about it? Why is it so emotional for you? Let's research that. And B, let's look it up. Let's go deep into it. And you know what? You might find out you just learned something new. Or now your stake in your position is even stronger. So, the help?
Y'all be taking everything I want to say. No. So I had something that I wanted to add, but I think you guys covered it, so I have a question on what you said earlier. When you had made the comment on going to 5 different seminars and the perspective of looking at it was, instead of being like, this is trash, can I pull a nugget from it? I'm going to admit that it was the defensive part, but my brain goes, but why do I go to 5 seminars and they're trash? Because my time is my most valuable asset. So then is that wasteful because I'm not putting any thought process into how to get the most bang for my buck, considering that my most precious resource is my time? Absolutely, and the post-mortem being like, oh, okay, I didn't get what I wanted out of it, but at least I can apply this. Mm-hmm. But do you continue to do the same thing if you're continuing to get the same result, which is technically insanity?
Well, if it's 23 years ago and you know nothing about growth and self-improvement and you're a 20-something-year-old kid who's trying to change his life, then, and there's no hopes or any groups or organizations out there that's trying to push you to success, you're gonna fumble. You fumble around. It's needles and haystacks that you're looking for. So the goal, what we do is we've taken all of that experience and all those nuggets and we've compacted them down to give them to this class to say, you ain't got to do that. Here's the books that work. Here's the books that we think that are applicable to your journey. Here's what we're giving you. So in those moments when the alternative is nothing, then there's no right or wrong in that. And that's how you can at least extract some good from it. I say this too, is that every book that we give you, it's not 100% dope. It's not 100% pure. Like, let me stop saying that. It sounds dope game-ish. It's not 100%. It's stepped on. Some of it's stepped on. That's worse.
Wow, this is getting worse. It's getting worse. This is getting worse. You ain't come back for this one.
All right.
Let me interrupt.
Okay, let me go to percentages then. So a lot of books we read, that's why some of the books don't come back the next year.
But measured in kilos?
You measure no. That's why some of the books we read don't come back, because over time and over personal growth and leveling up our game, we realize the percentage of nuggets in the book is too low to give to the classes next year because we're at a different level now. But did those books help? Were there nuggets in there that if you read and you applied and you extracted, would they help you? Absolutely. If you utilized it and took it to the house, but that's what growth is, and you're always extracting.
So, outside of the Hope class, because I think Hope is the most magical thing I've ever come to as a business owner. I go and invite people every year to this class because people always say, like, how the hell did you build this business? And I was like, it wasn't me. It was like I got a circle to plug into, and every time I'm about to make a mistake or I have like feedback loops of like, oh, pivot here, do this, do that. So I invite people to the class, and sometimes people come and sometimes they don't. And oftentimes what they're asking me is for all of the answers that we're learning here in like a 5-minute conversation that I can't really do because the class is over a year for a reason. And so I'm curious if you have, and I know this is gonna sound stupid, but like, cause I don't really know what to give them when they ask me this. What would be a system that somebody could put in place outside of Hope? Because we got all the shit out here. But what would be a system that somebody could put in place so when they are trying to do their personal investment and grow themselves, but Hope just seems a little too much for them, like they're mentally, emotionally not ready because of whatever ideas they have in their head about what this could possibly be? What are some things that I can share with them about checks and balances of their time and their attention and how to approach a learning space outside of Hope? Because I think you guys curate a very intentional learning space that is not done the same way as it is outside of Hope.
I just love how I'd be like, when you talk, I mean, like, she's from Oakland, New York, Oakland, New York. Like, where the fuck? Like, New York just pops out, and I'm like, oh yeah, you are from New York. Like, you got a couple stubborn ass words that will not let go of New York. Like, fuck that. I don't care how long you've been living in California. I'm staying. Especially if it's like a ALK, like talk. Like, I love that. That's dope. That's the, like, don't get it twisted, I'm from New York, I'll beat your ass. But let's go back to California. Anyways, receipts. No, like, again, this isn't a perfection game. This isn't a get it right the first time game. You're on a journey, you're pursuing, you're going hard. If you want to grow, you're pursuing, you're going hard. If you don't want to, like outside of this class, receipts. Man, on Instagram, you can scroll and everybody's an expert. He was a dope fiend last week, and now he's on this show giving life advice, relationship advice. He was a killer 2 weeks ago, and now he's telling how to be successful in business, and it's 20,000 people that seen it. So, like, we're in a sea of experts who don't know what the fuck they talking about. Now, how do you navigate as a up and coming entrepreneur wanting to learn and get real game? All I say is receipts. Receipts. It's a Pastor Chris knows this. I don't be knowing the scriptures, but I've read the book hella times. But I know it's in there. I don't know the scriptures, but there's somewhere in there that where they said. They were talking about false prophets to Jesus, and they said, Jesus, all these prophets out here, how do I know which ones is fake? And he was like, by their fruits you recognize them, meaning when the wheat and the weeds grow together, they look exactly the same, but when they grow, that's when they change. So you can't just sit there and listen. Then you got to back up and just be like, hold on, let me see some of them receipts, and not. I made $1 million this year. Doing what? How sustainable is it? Can you maintain it? Can you grow it? How? You ask for those receipts, then that allows you to be like, nah, that ain't it. Or did you even do it at all? You lying motherfucker, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time listening to you. I'm out. So your time is valuable. But look for the receipts, because sometimes it's hard to tell. We are in a consumer environment, and so if somebody got a Gucci sweater with hella chains on and a $20,000 watch, a lot of us will bypass our conscious mind, and now we're listening. Man, I need to hear what he got to say. I remember when my son was young and Blueface first came out. And he was popping. Blueface was everywhere on the radio. And my son straight arguing with me that Blueface is the new wave, next big rapper. And I'm like, cuz that ain't it. Like, I'm happy for him that he got a wave. He got a hype cycle. He gonna get some money, but he's gonna be gone soon. No, see this, you don't understand hating. I said, no, it's not hate. It's he's in a hype cycle. What he's doing is not sustainable, and it's a small wave, and I'm glad he's getting it. But you got to look at long game receipts. So if you're giving people that advice, I would say always look for the receipt. That's what makes this dope, is that you got to watch us go through our own journey of our own businesses real time. And as scary as that is, we show up and do it. As scary as that is. During COVID, I was on my ass during COVID. On my ass the year after COVID, just not as much. Growing, grinding. So if I'm not executing and using the principles that we're teaching, I'm a fucking hypocrite. I'm a hypocrite. So, like, this class holds us to have receipts with you guys. Now, if the company crashes and burns, it's not even about the success of the company. It's about the use of the principles. Because if I use the principles correctly, whatever I do, I'm going to bounce back. Whatever I do, I'm going to get back. Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to grow, because the principles work. So you got to look at the receipts.
Let me add one thing, too. I'm going to kind of go a different route. Because, go back to the concept of boundaries. We got to be careful with our story of coming from poverty or coming from hard times. Let me say it again. We're going to have to be very careful with this story of coming from poverty and coming from hard times. Because by us bonding to that story, we're bonding towards our own poverty. So what do you mean? When you feel that you came from hard times, it will breed unconscious to self, not guilt. It breeds unconscious to self, entitlement, and greed. You say, what do you mean? When you think you have to come from hell and no one was there for you, you have to fight and get to the top and you came from the bottom, you will unconsciously have acts of entitlement and greed. You will automatically assume, for example, often you hear this from men who are climbing the ladder, coming from poverty. They'll say, I'm doing this for my kids. But they don't see the kids. They don't interact with the kids. The kids are objects. Because they plan on, when I make this money, I'm going to pass it down to them. And what the kids really want is time, energy, or commitment. But when they talk about the kids are pure objects. You may hear them in a relationship. They only value their woman as a utility because I want this success, right? They may even go into business deals and negotiate from a space of what can I get, not how does this work for me for long term. They start to look at people around them as tools to work in their interests. They want to go from point A to point B as fast as possible because as far as they're concerned, life owes them that. So now when they come to you and say, hey, give me some advice, you got to see that person showing up at your desk. And you got to know that it's protecting creating your boundaries. It's time to say, hey, you know, when you're really ready for it, I'm there for you. Mr. Miyagi on them. I'm not even bullshitting with you. If they're not willing to jump any hurdles, they're not in the right mindset for this journey. Because this journey is not designed to yield you anything right away. When you sit in this class and court brings a point to the table and your brain goes, oh shit, I'm not like that. I need to change. You know, because we always want to fix ourselves. It's not meant for you to change it that day in class. It's another goal that you set in your life of where you want to go. Where most people fall off is that they try to change themselves by tomorrow, become highly frustrated, and then go, you know what, this is just taking too long. I'm going back to the fast way. Because they're hanging on to that old story of, I come from this. This is where I come from. When I first started this entrepreneur stuff, my first year, that story hit my head right away. Oh, I came from this. So somebody gets negotiating with me at the table, right? And my brain goes into, gotta get mine. And the first thing I told myself is, if you were successful, would you say that? And I would have pulled myself back. First time somebody asked me to give me their money back, I'm thinking money is hard to get out here. That's my hood voice talking to me, where I came from. And I tell myself, if I'm a good business, how should I handle the situation? And I gave the person the money back. So be careful. These stories, these ideas, the way we tell ourselves these stories, and every day we're living that story, which is pushing us deeper into our own poverty. So be careful, like I came from this and this is hard and this is rough. And Give yourself permission to be a new you.
Fire. Let's go to the next slide. All right. 4 words. 4 words. This shows you the power of liminal thinking. Shows you the power of perception. And how different things, you can look at the same 4 words and have completely different perceptions on it. So let's start with the first one. I didn't touch her. Anybody want to say what that translates to them, what that means to them? Go ahead.
I'll go before I pass it. So 2 things popped into my head. The first one was the whole culture of like Me Too. And then the opposite one is when you an annoying ass little ass kid and they come this close to your face and they were like, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. Those are the 2 things that popped in my head.
Hey, that was my go-to move to my sister. Shit. Okay, how about this one? I didn't touch her. I didn't touch her. What does that mean? Somebody else did. It's the same fucking sentence. What about this one? I didn't touch her. Give somebody the mic. Give somebody the mic.
It sounds like you didn't do it, but somebody else did.
I didn't touch her.
It sound like you looked at her real hard, though.
So I didn't touch her, but I did something else to her, right? What about this? I didn't touch her. Give somebody the mic.
Touch someone else.
You see how the same sentence could mean 4 completely different things. 4 words. 4 words. That's how dangerous it is to start arguing your rights and wrongs. Because just by the inflection of somebody's voice could send you down a path of all kind of shit of what you think happened, didn't happen, and now you 100% sure that this happened.
Tiffany Haddish.
Feel me? What Tiffany Haddish do?
So she did a video, and couldn't find out the lady who was sued her for child exploitation because they did a video talking about don't leave your child with that horrible uncle. Well, it ended up being that the case was dropped, and the lady had to apologize because she had a mental problem, so she just kind of like was trying to exploit her. But now there's a whole crowd of people who are stuck on that story, and they can't get past that. And so she can't even get work right now because everybody's like, oh, she's a child, a child abuser or molester. It's like, no, the fuck she isn't, right? But it's that thing where people see one side of the story, which is the argument of why you shouldn't watch the news at all.
So let's talk about cancel culture. If liminal thinking was implemented, there would be very little to no cancel culture. Because there's so many perspectives that you can find and understand, and liminal thinking allows you to see people for who they are and understand things from their perspective. So we do this every day. We do this every day. And liminal thinking allows us to say, I didn't touch her. Okay. What does that mean? Let me get more facts. Did you see anything? Let me interview. And over time, you'll get the whole picture, the whole elephant. And now, a lot of times, you'll be known as somebody who's either a hater or why you agreeing with their side. No, I just have a different perspective than you. I done seen other things. Any questions? Charlize.
Not really a question, it was an observation as you were going through the different tones, and there's also the nonverbal tones that we misconstrue. That could be in a text or even just written out on a social media and can be totally heightened and turned into some virtual misconception. So it's even reading in between the lines of when there is no tone attached to it.
Another one, lack of liminal thinking. Another one. Have someone texted you something and you tried to text them back something nice and they read it and was furious with you? It's a lack of liminal thinking because they read it with whatever tone that they associated with or they was on at the time. That's why I always say, fuck text and call. Because you can hear the tones, the inflections, you can hear their inflections and make sure that you mitigate the conversation in a way that's powerful. So now you text back, well, I didn't mean it like that. I meant this, and they still in the angry phase, and they read that text mad too, and they're more disrespected. Because that's what they're doing. It's lack of liminal thinking. When you can read it once and be like, shit, that sounded hella disrespectful. But what if that wasn't their intent? That sounds super nice. What if they intended this? And you can have 4 or 5 different meanings of reading the text. Before you answer back, hey, yo, what's going on? So I'm confused by what you said. What did you mean by that? And they were like, oh, no, I just said, and you're like, oh, cool. Because I was about to cuss your ass out. That's the power of liminal thinking. It saves me from my clients all the time Because there's a particular demographic group in a particular area that I'm working on myself with, Southern California. And I'm working on that because the name dropping and the penny pin and all that. And I realize that that's the culture. And instead of me getting offended, I have to learn how to communicate with them to negotiate, because that's the area we're going into. And so I have to be like, let me take a deep breath. I don't think he meant that. That's just his style of negotiation. He's not trying to be disrespectful. Oh, no, cool. I feel you, bro, but this is what we got. And I'm thinking, it's on and popping. He's like, okay, cool, let's do it. So liminal thinking will help you or save you. Is there any more slides? Or any questions online?
2 more slides.
Pastor Chris gave you the scripture.
What's the scripture, Pastor Chris?
It's Matthew 7, 15, and 16.
See, I be on it. I be knowing. Come on,
you to know where to find it, okay?
Come on, thank you. Thank you, Pastor.
And he also asked you to please back up off Southern California because he knows where you work and he will pull up.
Oh, my God. He's a Lakers fan, y'all. Sorry.
It's all right.
Just pray
it's
for
all
him.
right. All right. Let's go. So we beat this one up already. We clear, right? We're clear on.
But I don't know if you beat it up enough, bro. Let me pause. I don't know if you.
Hey, I've never heard that before.
Hey, I had to catch myself. Like, look here. I think I want to double tap on that idea. You understand me?
Yeah, just double tap on it. Correction. You was talking about me in the step
Hey, I caught myself, man. I slipped up on that one. I'm a little sick with this today, so
my mic working?
you know, just bear with me. Bear with me.
My mic's working?
But
Okay.
you know what's so funny about this one? And I think that, you know, as we move and as you're doing a wonderful job highlighting liminal thinking, it's the one that we always get wrong. Like, desire to be right. So I have a family member, and she had got pregnant at a young age. Because she got pregnant at a young age, I had some cruel family members who told her she wasn't gonna be shit. They just hit her straight up. This is 1980 something. So this ain't no 2022 Me Too shit. This is black folks calling you punks and all kind of stuff. And so they told her, you ain't gonna never be shit. So then in school, she had a high IQ. So like going through grade school, she's killing. You couldn't put a test in front of her, she couldn't smash. So she's graduates from high school, and she gets this job with no college degree, learns to speak 5 different languages. This is no exaggeration. And becomes extremely smart and extremely rewarded for her intelligence. Now that she's older, she's highly ignorant because her intelligence is her sword and her shield. And she can't get proper feedback or engagement, and she can't rush to be right because she's trying to protect a little girl that says, I'm not good enough. And many of us, at some point, whether in high school, elementary, or junior high, something, we were told we weren't good enough. And or shit, media tells us every day, if you people of color of some other cultures, those phrases, even the people of color and white people say, you know, as an entitled person, I'd be like, fuck off. But the reality is that all that kind of conversation is saying you're sub. And because of that, you can easily sit here in this room and be like, yeah, that's deep. And go give advice when you leave here, when you get home, be like, tell your significant others or some friends, see, this is why we can't get along, because you always want to be right. But you don't realize it's our default go-to when we're uncomfortable. And there's multiple sides of who we are. Learn to see the version of you that's in fear. When you go to a space of fear, who do you become? And I promise you, most of the people in this room will jump to be a champion of being right, not discovering. Because it's I can't begin to tell you, like this class here is not something you're going to change tomorrow. It's something you're going to have to work on for a long time and build that muscle. And just know that. So even though he went over numerous times And many of you guys may nod your head and go, oh, yeah, I get that, I get that. I can almost promise you that at some point throughout the year, all of you are going to have a conversation with me, and you guys are going to champion being right. And I'm going to look at you the whole time like, oh, my God, this is the worst. Right? Because why? I'm used to, even when I think I'm right and you make a point, I'm more curious now to see where you're coming from. And then every time I hear a good argument that I may disagree with, but I think it's a good argument, it makes me go re-examine my argument over and over and over until it breaks. And many of your arguments will break, so it's because many of my arguments are broken. They may have withheld. There was a story of this man who, I gotta read a lot of old stories because I try to understand context of old books. So there's a story of this man. I ain't gonna tell the whole story, but he had robbed the church for $2,300 or 2,300 coins, and then he had I think 700 of his own coins, and he took that money to go invest in something, but he really stole it from the church. But he didn't say anything. But in the town that he was in, when he was in that town, he was a big dog. Many of us live in our own towns in the hood, so we live in these little small neighborhoods. We call them towns. Or you live in these smart, you just go to your friend's house. That's your little town. And he was a big dog. But as soon as he left his town, he realized he was actually broke. He had nothing. We don't realize that quite often when you're arguing, you're never getting outside your town. You're never even expanding outside. Like you realize you're actually trapping yourself, because in order for you to be right and to work in that space of right, you're actually shrinking the world you live in. And before you know it, you're only being measured by a crew of 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 people. But now you want to play this entrepreneur game, which requires you to interact with thousands of unknown people, and you wonder why you suck. You're too damn right. Mm-hmm. You don't let nothing in. You don't let none of your ideas break. You just keep holding on to those same ideas because you think these ideas made me tight. When I was in my neighborhood, I was the baddest person in my neighborhood with these ideas. And as soon as you come outside those neighborhoods, which is like some of you guys have been in jobs, or you've been in college, or you just, or you live in a small neighborhood, or you came from the ghetto, whatever it is, those are all environments of scarcity. Now you want to go into the general population, and now you realize, oh shit, I ain't got nothing. Maybe you don't have, so you might be smart as fuck at your job. You may be smart as fuck at the college. And when you go into the real world, you realize you ain't got shit. You might be street smart. Yo, I'm hella street smart. I know everything. Get into business and you realize you ain't got nothing. You have something, but you don't have enough. And so really, you have to understand that whatever world you came out, created a form of a reality scarcity, and your brain makes up a lot of it. It just adds extra shit. Like you think you know more than you, because most of you saw on television, that shit ain't real. So you go out in the real world in business, instead of you going to the game, that's why he said this is the most important thing to start with. This is what those of you online, he's saying, hey, this is the most important thing for you to know. Go into this game, and you trying to take that small town goddamn conversation to the general population, and they laugh at you like a little hillbilly. That's a derogatory term, respect to the white folks. But in a sense, they laugh at you like, who's the small town person talking this shit? And they look at, and those are the people who got the experience. They about to run circles on you. They about to rob you for everything you got. And you wonder why they snob you, they're not treating you right, and why they're not interacting with you, because you're small. Then you start saying, oh, it's racism, or they don't treat people of color. No, you're small. And the way you grow fast is turn down that desire to be right.
I love that. So, how does that happen? You know, one of the fastest ways it happens. How many salespeople do we have? Anybody in sales?
Yeah.
Three sales. How many have sales background, sales experience, sales background? Okay, so how comfortable are you with being told no? You hear no a lot in sales, right? No a lot in sales. You hear no a lot in sales. Now, your attitude after you hear the no determines the speed at which you grow. The attitude.
Ooh, that's a good one.
The attitude after the no determines the speed in which you grow. So if your desire to be right is high, you hate rejection. Hate it. Hate it. You're the equivalent of that dude you didn't like at Sweet Jeffries or whatever club in Oakland that after they tried to get at you.
What's my favorite word?
I mean, Sweet Jimmy's or Jeffries. that brother that walked up on you, tried to get
Not
your
too
number,
short,
and
did
you
you?
said no, and he was like,
He said too short. That's a great one, bro.
so I'm saying, I'm saying, you're that equivalent. You're that equivalent of being around people who hate rejection so much that after you deny them, now it's fuck you. And so that you go from to the left to the right. You don't even examine what happened. Why? Well, why did you say no? What was it? You could extract a nugget so that the next time or the next opportunity you be better. Well, hey, time out. What was it? Man, your breath stunk. That's why. Okay, now I know. So there's so many nuggets that you can gain from a no. But if you are always trying to be right, you're stuck, and you're gonna be stuck. You always gonna be stuck. No is your best friend. No is your best friend. That goes back to the what resonates with you stuff. Is the equivalent of not resonating with you is no. You got rejected. No. Ooh, that hurts. When you have a high desire to be right, you're going to run to the rightness. Well, so-and-so liked it, or well, it works for me, or they just hating, because you're trying to fill your ego back up because it has a void right now. It's not going to resonate. It might feel nasty. It's going to feel weird. Some of it's going to feel like it's going to feel weird, nasty. That's what you got to get used to, enjoying that feeling.
I was just gonna share that, like, before I had a gym, I used to have hella sales jobs. I would even do door-to-door sales. If y'all ever seen, like, the people that sell the golf packages and food packages, I used to do that shit. So one of the best things they taught us when we were doing the thing, because we would pitch different businesses all the time. We would just go out with paper portfolios, and it'd be like golf resorts, massage, whatever. And they were like, the first thing you have to understand how to do is to handle objections. And the only thing that no means is not right now, and get more information to figure out how to turn it to a yes. And so when I bring my staff on board, if they have to have any direct interface with clients, if it's training or if it's sales or if it's front desk, the first thing that I give them when we talk about clients is a sales objections list. Because even if they're not in charge of selling something, they have to understand, like, the list of objections that people are going to have when it comes to timing, scheduling, products, services, commitments to themselves, goals, and know all of the things that they're already going to say, and then have like 30 responses to those. But it makes it easier for the onboarding of the staff and onboarding for the client, because they already are getting comfortable with, they know they're going to get told no, and now they have responses for it.
Yep. Question. Good stuff. Good stuff.
More of a, not necessarily a question, but I had that situation happen to me this week with the store that I put some of my products in. And she called me and was complaining about the tops, the black tops that I use. They pick up scratches pretty much. And I'd already been paid, but I got off the phone and then sat with my daughter, and in my feelings was ready to completely throw the relationship completely away. My stuff won't be there no more. She ain't getting her money back. But then the next day, I called her after looking up some different jars and saying, you know what, I have some silver tops, and if these work for you, I can order silver tops for the smaller jar. And she came back and she said, that wasn't what I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to put you down or criticize you. But in receiving what she said, I took it as a criticism and went with it myself and was ready to throw the relationship away. And that wasn't at all what she was trying to do. So just being able to, like you said, it's not a complete no, it's just your breath stink or whatever it is. That's what she told me. But the relationship is not destroyed. She sent me pictures of the products and everything looks nice. But she said, for next time. So
That's a great, that's basically like, I thought you said I didn't touch her, and you said I didn't touch her. You were off on.
I was just thinking of even incidents of being in that, and when you're in a personal, I guess, debate and someone's going right or wrong with you, how you, and it's taken me a while to learn how to not take it as a personal attack on my character just because they're telling me I'm wrong. It's just you're wrong in this situation, or they might just not agree with you. But I think sometimes in a reactive situation, it's a fully that full ego lower, heightens, and you're feeling like your whole character is being attacked or questioned. So,
Great point. Great point. Last slide.
Can I add something?
Sure.
So to the no. I have a very different relationship with this because of the training of you have to be twice as good, which I'm going to extrapolate that to mean I had to be twice as right. Right? And so I went in full pursuit of that. And I went in full pursuit of that. And so I didn't take, so any sort of rejection or even the potential for rejection doesn't necessarily register to me as like an attack against me. It really is deeper than that. It's an attack, it's my own value and worth. And the way that, and so just to kind of paint the picture, my value and worth for most of my life have been attached to being twice as right. And for most of my life, that wasn't really a problem.
Corporate world.
It wasn't really a problem. And I can say that in many cases, just kind of going to some of the things that the podcast was talking about, I think by doing that, I do believe I actually blocked my own growth. And I actually think that I maybe stunted my own momentum in the corporate world because I wouldn't show up as myself. I was showing up as this version of me that was twice as right all of the time. And so I think that created a lot of blind spots for me. Certainly couldn't necessarily see people as well as I could have. So because that is kind of my starting point, is the twice as right. What has my relationship with no is very new. And what has helped me tremendously is to be in an environment where I don't lose my brilliance because something falls short, right? That's part of the value of this space, is that I've been able to, by my agreement to be in this space, I'm cultivating in my life spaces and places where that frequency is of being twice as right is no longer a requirement. Hope is one of the spaces that's happening for me in my life. And so just to kind of put a different, I don't know, perspective or archetype of how that shows up, I didn't do a lot of stuff that you could call me on. I always was CYA, like cover your ass.
I love this.
So I was always covering my ass. It was always, you can't come for me because my shit is together. And not only did I learn that just in the way that I grew up, but it was also my defense, because very early on I started to experience things from a career standpoint and from a financial standpoint that most people in my family had not seen, even my own parents. Like, I started to be in contact with a lot of financial resource very early on, and I didn't have a whole lot of place. So being twice as right, like, I really clung to that because it allowed me to kind of survive in these new spaces where I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was figuring it out. And so that was the thing that I could hang my hat on. Like, I don't know a lot of this stuff, but I know that I can be twice as good. And so that is what I will apply myself to. And in many ways, I was rewarded for that, So for me, I'm now unwinding a lot of my life has in many ways been a reward for that kind of behavior. And so I'm at a place where I'm stepping away from that, not because it hasn't benefited me. I'm just choosing because I want something bigger than that. And so it's one of those things about stepping away from a behavior, not because the wheels fell off or not because it was necessarily bad. It is, I see that there's a way for me to live life more fully and for me to not block my growth, because I actually want the growth more than I want to be twice as right. But I could have, that was not a detriment for me to continue in that vein. I just got in spaces where I saw the limitations of it. And sometimes it's still sometimes I veer off the road a little bit, like when you, on the freeway, when you hit the bumpy things, you're like, oh, shit, I'm far from the edge. Like that thinking, because it was so rewarded, is still, I'm creating a lot of awareness about how that's still showing up. And so, and a lot of grace for myself when I see it. So, yeah.
There's so many nuggets in that. I'm not even going to start. I think you just re-listen to it. A lot of nuggets. I'll say this, and we got to move because I don't want to go into the next half of this class. But no, like the story that she just told, just understand this. Imagine that the story that you believe and that you live and die by is like the city that you live in. You got the shirts, Oakland, Oakland, Oakland. I'm Oakland out. You're Oakland A's fan, Oakland Raiders fan, Oakland Warriors fan. You're Warrior, Oakland out. You know the streets, you know the hood. You proud of that. You grew up here, went to school here. That is your story, the city that you're from. Not realizing that there's about 45 million other cities on this planet. And some people don't even go outside their city. They don't know nothing else. When we were young in the 80s, San Francisco was like going to Paris. Because 5 blocks is pretty much it for us. And we would have a great time if we went to Alameda or San Leandro. That was like, we going to San Leandro. Your story is just like that city. You live, not realizing the idea of packing up and moving is just foreign. Not being around your circle of influence, circle of friends, where you grew up, your favorite grocery store, whatever, it's all so familiar. So the idea of going to another place is almost like death. It's just your story. Fucking is just a city. One. Oakland is the best city. We started everything. We started fashion. We started this. We started all the dances and all the Man, if you don't get your ass out of Oakland and look at what other cultures, cities, states, countries are doing, then you realize that, yes, I love where I'm from, but there's a whole tons and tons of other places where I can get another experience. So the relationship she has with her liminal thinking says, with a new story, I can just move that shit around. That's old, that's weak, this or that. Or I'm gonna take pieces of this because that worked for me. Because liminal thinking says, what works here doesn't work here. How do I know? Because either I have the experience or I have somebody telling me that. Liminal thinking works here. This works in the corporate world. The rights and wrongs work well in the corporate world. They will fuck you up in entrepreneurship. And you be sitting there like, how? I don't even know how it's not translating, because it's absolute. It's like breathing air and then trying to breathe underwater. And be like, I don't understand the difference. It's both earth. That is the reality. But run that back, what she said at some point. Last slide. if you want different results, pay attention to the obvious that differs from yours. If you want different results, you got to pay attention to the obvious that differs from yours. And it's going to feel uncomfortable, Kaja. It's just going to feel like scratching on a fucking chalkboard. But soon, when you start extracting the nuggets from that scratch and you start getting a bigger bag and your money start getting better, that scratch is going to sound like beats from Dr. Dre over time. I think that's it. That's it, cuz.
Switch those. Switch.
Stuck book, because when she goes and she talks about the benefits of being stuck, and it made me directly think about, you know, how you can have two of the same circumstances and have, depending upon your outcome that you desire, two very different tracks of the road. And it just made me realize that, like, reinforcing stuck is not a bad thing if the desired outcome outweighs, you know, there's always a benefit for the behavior that we have, whether it's keeping you sheltered or, you know, reducing your loss or increasing your exposure. So that's what that made me think about when I heard you say that was all of the benefits you were getting from being double, the brightest, the smartest, the sharpest.
Well, let me add one small thing too. I think that was kind of tight. Is, you know, it's really easy because we're a defensive culture, and I'm part of defensive culture. So I'm speaking from first person. The first thing we want to do is when we discover something that doesn't work, we want to slap our hand. Wrong. Let's get right? And another approach to that would be start something else that removes the value of something, a bad habit, right? And so if you practice learning all the time, let's say she was in the corporate office and she stayed in a single department and she just practiced. She was going home every night reading. After a while, she would separate herself so far from the peers that to argue would be like a form of labor for her. It would be stressful. It would irritate her to argue. So she would find herself. I can promise you that probably happens now, even around some of these subjects when you're talking to people around entrepreneurship. And if their argument is too far out there, you just go, oh, okay, well, I see where you're coming from. Okay, cool, right? But what you won't do is say, where somebody that's close, you look for people who are worthy of your time, right? So like if I'm putting hours and hours and hours on research, and somebody comes into the room with the idea like, I think you could be successful if you go outside and sell lemonade and you just stay up all night long and all day long. You go, oh, okay, well, let me know that works out. That person won't get any of my time, right? But if somebody shows up to me and they sound like Court, well, I can hear the maturity in his voice. And so I'll stop what I'm doing going, okay, well, let's examine that. And even if somebody's not as strong as Court and you come to me, I'm only going to give so much time based upon how much time you give to it. And I will sense that, right? But what that does, it takes you out of the personalization of the process, right? Are you in the liminal thinking, Court? Are you going to get into how to see multiple parts of the elephant for yourself without other people? Is that part of, I'm not sure if that, I can't remember if that's part of the book. Is that microphone on? Don't turn the microphones off. I don't care for shit if I'm coughing out loud. Don't turn it off. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so you'll get into that later on. Okay, yeah. Okay, good. I ain't gonna get into it. Okay, cool. All right, let's go to the next slide. Don't do that microphone thing. Just let me cough or let the sound or whatever. People know there's more than one person in the room. Rhythm is everything. When you guys ever run any type of production or you do anything in your office, it's not important just to execute process. It's also pay attention to the rhythm, right? Even when you watch sports, the rhythm of the team, your rhythm work is important, right? Like if you ever do something and you clunky, it's totally different than when you're in a rhythm, right? And so with small things disrupt your rhythm, those around you have to understand the importance of rhythm, not just the technical stuff. The technical stuff is important, but if you throw out the rhythm, it's like having 4 great basketball players, but they don't play well together. So rhythm is so important, right? Like even when you design your office with the thought of rhythm. Like what's gonna be the rhythm of movement in the office, right? And so what bothered me in that situation was I turned the court, I'm waiting for the court to say something, and the rhythm's disturbed. So if I turn to him and say, oh, turn this microphone, oh, okay, my guy, we can't do that. And if you're coughing in the background, I'm sure that's why he turned it down, right? Well, even with me coughing in the background, as I told everybody, I'm at the tail end of my cold. And real cold too, it's real. When you get those 4-year-old colds, they're real. But the disturbance, unless you're gonna sit at the sound system and like actually be like an engineer, then let that happen. Just let that happen. But don't destroy the rhythm of the speakers. Like don't send me texts about things that are irrelevant. Don't do those type of things because there's a rhythm that I'm trying to get into. So it's important. So that's important, and trust me, I'm saying that for you because you guys are entrepreneurs, and don't think you're crazy when you say, hey, let's lock in that rhythm, or you talk to your team about rhythm, because rhythm does impact the harmony of the team and the output of the team. So that's very important. Last week, we talked about boundaries, and I sense some of you guys becoming frustrated, stressed. I heard testimonies how some of you guys are saying, oh my God, I got to work on that. I just got to work on me and my boundaries. Or, my mama called me, and sometimes give yourself some time. I kind of went over this before, but I'm going to just say it one more time. Give yourself permission to grow. You didn't come to Hope to check boxes to see if you're perfect. This is an environment for growth. Learn to be in a world where you're growing. The problem with school a lot of times is it's not really designed to help a lot of people grow. This is why schools are going through so much hell right now, and they're losing so many of their students, because students are trying to question, well, I'm not sure if I'm growing, right? And this is one of the reasons I think they changed the language from homework to growth work. I think that was the language they used when they sent the email. We send you an email so you can have you did your growth work. Meaning that in this process of everything you're gonna learn in this class, part of you coming from a space of feeling like you're not good enough is you're gonna also put yourself on trial in every class. Take yourself off of trial. You're not on trial. Everybody's perfect from their environment. The problem is you're going to a new town now. So that means you have to grow new skills. But if you go back to your home or your house, the shit works. And it works well, doesn't it? And it got you here, didn't it? So let's give yourself a little bit more permission to realize that you're working on growth. That means a lot of things you want to learn in this class, you don't have yet. Even when you think you have it, we may teach you, we may repeat the lesson, then you realize, well, I don't have that version of it. And that's okay. That's okay. And here's the funny part, you're never going to get it. Entrepreneurship is a continuum of growth. Once again, I called it a practice last week. I'm going to say it again. This is a practice game. And even you may have one game where you hit 80% of your jump shots. And this game, you sucked. Or one year, you went out to the whole year, and it was the highest score in the league, but your team didn't even make it to the playoffs. And you got to figure some other shit out. So that's how this shit is. It's just, and you might think to yourself, well, no, what if I'm pretty good. I got that kind of, Shamar sitting over there going, I'm hella smart. That's for everybody else, not for me. Let me just say this real quick. That's okay, Shamar. I'm mind reading today. I'm just on some other shit today. I've been hanging around him and the sage, just trying to take me to a higher level. But anyway, point is this. but what you'll find is that the game never stays the same for you to master it. The game never stays the same for you to master it. So as soon as your ego kicks in and think you know it all, you are now joining the team that's sliding down the hill, failing. So you have to always stay in the curious and the growth and the self-patience. If you don't have self-patience, it's because your historical trauma is telling you have to hurry up and get there. And you don't have to hurry up and get there. The journey in itself will be the most transforming thing you will ever experience in your life. And when you get there, there is not there. Because the there destination you set your eyes on when you were poor It's going to look very, very different when you get close to it. And when you get close to it, you're going to realize self-happiness and resources and cars and clothes and options is not going to make you happy. You're going to realize, oh, shit, what really makes me happy is like impacting the world I live in one way or another. And you're going to realize that the old there just got moved hundreds and thousands of miles out, and you're on a new journey again. So this whole idea of talking about this journey as if, once I get here, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to have everything I want, it does not work that way. And so give yourself permission to grow. As you grow, everything you tell, okay, so if this is day one, you just setting out on a journey, or let's say you just come out of poverty, everything you just told yourself is going to change on the journey. Everything. But if you don't give yourself permission, then the problem with your journey is you're too rigid on that journey. That's where that liminal thinking shit comes in. All right? Next slide. So now we're going to get to some entrepreneur consciousness. Remember I told you there's work consciousness and there's entrepreneur consciousness. I'm going to take time in these classes and separate the form of thinking, how this thinking will not exist in corporate America. So I'm going to hit you guys hard out the gate. And this, if we get stuck on this first one, then fuck it, we stuck on the first one. But I got to hit you hard out the gate, because if I can't shift your consciousness in these other areas, as I move, because the goal of this next few weeks, like I told you, is to show you the power of giving. Not like you've heard in church, beyond anything you ever imagined. And then I'm going to show you how to improve networking. And then I'm going to show you how to build charisma. And then I'm going to teach you negotiation back to back to back to back to back. Now, when I teach you these principles, if you don't get these foundational points, and if I can't shift your consciousness, you're going to mutate everything I told you and turn it into trash. I don't even know what you guys going to be doing. You might be at the club. Hey, girl, hey. You know, I'm from Hollywood. I don't know what the hell you're going to be doing. You're going to mess up everything, right? And so in order for this to be impactful, effective, and useful for you, I got to lay down some foundational principles. And I will add more foundational principles as we get deeper and deeper into it. But I'm going to move you from the space of, like, it's these invisible things that are happening around you all the time that you are impacting, that's changing the way people treat you when you show up in the room. Way before you even got to the room. That telegraph to rooms you haven't even went into. There's groups that don't even invite you to certain parties because you're fucking up the system. There's people who won't buy your products or won't sell your product. There's people hating on you right now because you don't understand the system. And it's not because you're a bad person. You ain't hurt nobody. You ain't lied to nobody. You ain't stole from nobody. But you don't know the rules of the game. And if you don't know the rules of the game, you keep playing your everyday game just trying to survive, but you're constantly causing damage to the system. And the system is properly reacting to you. The system in itself is based on this basic principle of human instinct. Humans have a basic instinct that doesn't change. And that instinct has a lot of complexities as we grow into larger populations. It has this way of showing up in the world for survival, because it's the number one goal of animals, to survive. And there's a lot of values and beliefs and movements and things that we do every day that as we're moving through our life, we'll go wonder one day, like, for example, you wonder, why do I have to spend so much money on sales? Why am I doing so hard on marketing? Why do I have these big ass dips in business? Why is it that people don't invite me on vacations? Why is it that people don't want to talk to me? Why is it people, like, when they come to my house, they treat it as a transaction? Why is it when I go to their house, all they offer me is coffee and a toast, piece of toast? And my friend said, yeah, I was over there last night, we had gumbo. Right? And you think, oh, they don't like you. No, it's not that at all. You personalize it because it's easy in this modern day culture to play the victim game and go, they don't like me and it's because of this, right? But I can promise you, there are so many different groups of human beings that will change their position with you if you understand the game that you exist in. But we don't. We don't. And a lot of it's tied to the stories we tell ourselves. Next slide. So, I'm going to try this real quick. Let the microphone flow. If you guys want to interrupt me, jump and grab the mic anytime you want to. Court, if you want to chime in, because this is a big subject. Like Court did an excellent job covering some big ass subjects, and I understand why he did it because he's going to build it out. But them some big ass subjects you covered. It might have been 10 slides, but it was like them some heavy ass subjects. This is another one that I think I'm totally wide open to you guys participating in. So, first one, and you guys, this is the roughest one because your brain hates this one. Matter of fact, the human has a desire for tuition, to have a tuition. I can feel what's about to happen next. You hear we talk about signs. You hear we like, hey, I went to Las Vegas and I only go to this casino and I play on table number 7 because I'm a little bit more lucky with number 7. What day were you born? You know, I was born on this day, so as a Libra, I can't participate in these things here. You may hear us say things like, you know, I would do this, but I don't feel comfortable with that because I realize that it just makes me feel unlucky. Okay. You watch TV shows all day long, and I want to predict that, you know, the Super Bowl, as somebody who's been on TV for years, I think I want to give you a prediction that the Eagles are going to be the Super Bowl champions. And as you guys know, for the last 4 years, I've been accurate. So obviously I have something that you guys just don't understand. Randomness and uncertainty is how the world works. The world is absolutely random, and the world is full of uncertainty. Randomness means that many things are always happening at once. I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Charlize probably heard this one because she continued to listen to the other one. I think he talked about this. And he said, why is it that the world knows Paul Revere? How in the fuck do you know about Paul Revere? I said, but think about this. Do you know the generals? Do you even know when the war started and ended? Do you know where they even, some of y'all don't even know where the fuck they fought at. You like, I just remember Paul Revere. The British are coming. Right? You know why we know why Paul Revere became famous? Because an artist did a poem on Paul Revere. And that's the only reason you know about that person. But at that wartime, there was a whole bunch of random shit happening. Some of you guys try to talk about civil rights like it's relevant. If you open your eyes and looked at the world from a larger perspective, they say, well, you know, in the 1950s, civil rights really gained momentum. In the 1960s, they had jumped over major hurdles. And then this guy named Martin and Malcolm came on about, and Elijah Muhammad landed, and these things happened, and they were assassinated. One died, and the one moved on, and then the Black Panthers came around, and, you know, they fought for everything they believe in, and then shit, after that, we didn't have nothing else going on. All right, let's rewind that real quick. There was 2 billion people on this earth. 2 billion people mean that's 2,000 million people were on the earth. What were the rest of those people doing? Our brain never. So when somebody quotes history, it's a very narrow story of a very narrow event that may or may not be relevant. It's only relevant because a storyteller made it relevant. This is important. Really, at the time, it was a whole bunch of random shit happening. But in hindsight, we was able to tell a perfect story. So, this weekend, one of my Yoruba brothers came by the house. Dope-ass cat. Motherfucking smart as shit. By the way, some Nigerian folks are some of the smartest people you will ever meet. So, my Yoruba brother, he's extremely intelligent. And he wanted to address the history of racism in America and oppression. So he's going on about the details of why the challenges that Africa's facing and challenges African Americans are facing. And he did some comparisons. And his conclusion was, that's the way it's been, man. And that's kind of dictating our outcome. And my first response was, the limitations of the past are not the limitations of the future. Everything you said could have actually went exactly the way you said it. Racism could have worked exactly the way you assumed. And let's just go all as fantasy you want to, that there was a mothership of white people who came down and they sit on every corner, and when you get on the phone, they all listen to everything you say, and what they do is they go around and they pinpoint the black person who's the most rebellious, and they take you out the game, and they make sure that only the most ignorant Negroes are left to run the world so they can maintain white supremacy. Let's just say that's true. Because that's some people say that shit. That's how it kind of works out, right? Even if that's true, that means nothing for tomorrow. It means nothing for tomorrow. Because the world is so random and so uncertain, Those patterns may have happened, but those patterns are not guaranteed to continue to move forward because the world's random. When you make decisions in this world, you will never, ever, ever know everything. You have to live with being uncertain. When you walk around trying to establish certainty, you develop a paralysis of decision making. Because you're so busy trying to be comfortable with your answer, guess what? You will never make a decision. You say what? Paralysis analysis. Well, paralysis of analysis is also an act of certainty. When really, no, it's meant to be uncertain. Well, let me show you the other side of uncertainty. You know, I don't know what the answer is. Let's just put our money down and let's just go for it. I'm a betting person. Let's go for it. That's uncertainty. Well, I ain't got time to figure out the answer. I'm just gonna make a big decision real quick. That's your discomfort with uncertainty. Did you know that saying no is an act of looking for certainty when there's uncertainty? Because sometimes when you say no, you're scared about what might happen if you said no. So you say yes just to see, okay, I'll say yes, I can see what happens, because to say no, I don't know what will happen if I say no. Person might leave me, I might lose out on something, I might lose this opportunity, I don't know what it means. So your whole life is full of yes, 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 yes. And guess what? You don't even have your own life no more because you're uncomfortable with uncertainty. Go ahead.
So what's on the screen made me think back to the Growth Work podcast when she was talking about the gator and the judge. And I was just like, wow, like when she goes into the judge's bias because all of his feedback and information that he's processing on trying to make rational decisions is coming from a very tainted space of this lethargic, lazy, something that's trying to conserve as much energy as possible and make quick heuristic decisions. And it just makes me think about understanding that we are engineered to use the least amount of resources, but we're also motivated to drive as long as it doesn't put our primary resources at risk. Because there's the whole thing of like safety and ambition while protecting because of scarcity and not taking too big leaps. And it just makes me think about how present within yourself you have to be and aware of your surroundings and how other people are reading you, perceiving you, and you them, to even have a sliver of a chance of like understanding how to walk in day-to-day life.
Here's a couple things. One is that, the closing point. The liminal thinking is let me add to liminal thinking. You can never see yourself, completely see yourself, because you can never see yourself. Then the reason you want to practice liminal thinking because you want to always try to discover yourself. But once you get to the point you think you understand yourself, that's just as bad as thinking you understand the world, right? Two, the meditation and the introspection, depends on how you approach it. You have to take time in your life to engage in a process, like weekly, daily, monthly. Not monthly, weekly, daily, or twice a week, 3 times a week, where you just reflect on decisions you made, things you observed. Also, give yourself permission to be fucking curious. Like, if I have a question and I ask myself a question, and I realize I don't really know the answer 100%. Can I go make some money with this answer? If the answer is no, I go on Google and look it up. I'm not even bullshitting y'all. I quit. I learned to just call my, like, hey, you don't know shit. Cut it out. Go on YouTube. Figure that shit out. And then even when I go to YouTube, I go find a professional and then compare the knowledge I learned and say, hey, and I even tell them, hey, I learned this on YouTube, so, hey, this sucks. I'm totally comfortable with you telling me it sucks. This is what I've learned. What's your insights? I speed the process up of what I don't know to get to what I need to know. But back to randomness and uncertainty. It's going to resonate all through your system. If you're a perfectionist, you're going to hate this space. If you live in corporate America, every day you went to work, they sold you certainty and structure. Out here in the world, there's uncertainty and randomness. If there is any structure to be created, someone doesn't create it for you. You don't get to say, where's the government? How come somebody didn't create that shit for me? You are a structure creator for others. You are, if we had to be like mystical or religious, you play a godly role in this earth of creating reality for other people. That's what an entrepreneur is. And so for you to run around like, well, where's the structure? Where's the rules? You ever heard of guys, heard of this thing called lobbying? What do you think they're lobbying? To change the what? The rules. Because they don't like them rules. It doesn't work for my business. Then the government has to create tension and say, hey, well, I understand, but equity is important in this situation, so sorry, I can't change that rule. But businesses are every day are going, hey, well, can we kind of change, our approach? And so at the end of the day, like I say, if you don't get this idea here, randomness and uncertainty, and the limitations of the past are not limitations of the future, a lot of intelligent people can't get past this point. They need this for their value. If I told you, every time you said something deep to me, I went, "Que sera, sera, what will be, will be. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever, I don't know." You'd be like, "I hate talking to him." But that's a legitimate response. I remember back in the days, I used to have a brother in the conscious movement. He would say, "Yo, brother, everything is everything." I used to hate talking to him. Right? But there's a degree of truth to that. But can you handle that? Can you move through the world and realize that your predictions for next month not necessarily going to work? Matter of fact, it's a 40%. You never play 50-50 game in business. You're really playing 40-60. 50-50 is not for you. 50-50 can be judged in hindsight. But when you're playing, you play for 40-60. So you're like, hey, I weighed out these decisions. You don't play like, well, it's 50-50. Nah, you starting at 40-60, so you gotta like kind of what's that word? Pad your thinking. Now I'm going to get into how to live in a world of randomness and uncertainty as we go through this class and build these tools up so you learn to navigate in that. But you're going to have to let that shit go. Okay, so one more story. My mentor, his wife, used to make these wonderful pumpkin cupcakes. Oh my God, they were so damn amazing. I almost need a moment. Shit. like I is my shirt, anything showing through my shirt? Okay, anyway, point is this. So, them cupcakes was, oh my God. And I hadn't seen my mentor for like 5 years because I was working on my business, my head's down. So I go to the gym one day, I see him, I'm like a kid seeing their dad coming home from war. I'm almost getting emotional because a lot of stuff he taught me, the lights came on. So I'm like, yo, man, thank you so much. I was like, yo, I did come by the house, get one of them cupcakes from wife. He's like, well, she died. So you imagine I'm frozen, you know that you get that numb feeling through your whole body. He goes, but I had a great time, 40 years. Don't trip. I'm sitting there going, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? He just shrugged his shoulders, it's 40 years. Can't have her forever, bro. She gone now. We had a good run. Like, what I say? Was y'all beefing or something? Like, were y'all about to go to divorce and like something like, was it like a perfect accident? He's like, no. Like, I don't know, like, because he was just too like, matter of fact, like if my wife died, I'm like, okay, shit, right? And it just happened. It wasn't like, oh, she died 2 years ago. It just happened. And then later on, I learned that's life. You don't have nobody forever because life is random and it's uncertain. You could have plans of we're gonna go on this honeymoon to a perfect away land and live there happily ever after. You might not even get there. That's what life's really about. Do you have a backup plan? And then a backup plan to that. Do you have alternative realities waiting on you? Like once you learn to move in a world where things are not guaranteed. Now there's different rules to randomness because there's another rule that says small things are almost impossible to predict, but the larger they get, the more predictable they are. So for example, if you want to say, what would America's overall performance in the economy be next year? You can roughly predict that. But if you say, what will any individual's economic wealth be next year? You can't predict that. Close to impossible. One mistake, one event, one earthquake, they just die. It's random. Things are always happening all the time that are uncontrollable. And the more you can digest that, I'm gonna post a couple articles so you guys can really digest this point. But if I move forward and you're trying to tie certainty and structure and in the past this worked, so that means in the future, nope. In the past it did work. In the future it ain't shit. Because everything's changed. And if you don't realize all the impacting factors that have changed, then your examination of the past is a blind look into the future. All right? Next slide. Any questions on that one? I think this used to be one of Court's favorite principles. Reciprocity. Guys ever go to a restaurant and they give you a piece of candy? And then you know why they do that? It improves your tip. This is why when they give you a free drink or that something came late and they're like, hey, you know what? You went through this. I tell you what, I'm going to bring you a sandwich. You'd be like, wow, that's really nice. They know that it's called reciprocity techniques. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, reciprocity, when you're born as a child, most human beings are taught reciprocity because of the way we need others to survive. You know, some people argue that ego is organic to the human being because when we were born, only thing we can think about is ourselves. And when baby cries, they don't think, I want some milk if you're not busy. No, he don't give a shit. You can be doing whatever. I need some goddamn milk, right? My daughter, I got to work on her ego because hers is the worst. But anyway, so in business, we use reciprocity all the time. When somebody gives you something, you feel like, man, I got to look out for them, right? It's important that you understand this because we're going to come back to this, but in a way deeper way. I'm just kind of covering the surface of it. So as you move through this world and you show up for others, others will show up for you. But just like giving, it has its negative side. Next slide.
Ooh.
I know. Danielle's cold, ain't she?
Yes.
Ain't Danielle cold? Hey, for those of you at home who are having emotional breakdowns right now, Danielle cold, mother. Wow, pause. Danielle cold. Anyway, go ahead and read this one. Sharisha.
Consider the tackle in American football. The force that the defender puts on the receiver's body in order to bring him to the ground is equivalent to the force felt by the defenseman's body during the tackle. You can't initiate force without having a force put on you.
You want to say it again? That last part of that sentence? Read that last sentence one more time.
You can't initiate force without having a force put on you.
Those of you with attitude, read that sentence one more time.
You can't initiate force without having a force put on you.
Those who show up in defensive and always trying to, be argumentative. Say that again. Read that last sentence for me.
You can't initiate force without having a force put on you.
Every energy you put out in the world is coming back, baby. Some of y'all think, oh, people around here are this. Pay attention to what kind of force you're putting out there. There's a question I asked about parenting a couple of weeks ago. The best way to parent? one of the best parenting advice I can give anybody. I don't have much parenting advice because it's a job in itself. But I tell you one thing that improved my parenting every year. Work on myself. Because you know what's cool about children? Is they're reading you when you're not even paying attention. You over there on the phone gossiping your ass off, and the kids taking notes. And one of these days you'll say, "Where'd you learn how to say that?" And then one day you walk in the room and you'll say exactly the way the child. You'll be like, "Oh, me." The reality is that everything you put out there, positive or negative, if you put that energy, if you go out there and you say you militant, this is what changed me in my pro-blackness. I was so militant, I was angry, and I hated white people. I straight up did. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I did. I was young. That's how I thought about it. And every day I would go home, I would carry the force that came back to me. Imagine walking around in a world where you hate people of any type of background, any kind of people. I'm still working on earthly people. I haven't got past it yet. I'm not crazy about earthly people. And social justice, but I don't hate them. They have their value. A lot of noise, but they have their value. I did roll my eyes. Anyway, point is this. But everything you put out there, there's no such thing as a force going into the world and just going off into the world. The way human interaction, our engagement, our relationships, it requires that force to come back to us. Any questions on reciprocity?
Can I jump on that?
Please do.
I love how they call it the law of reciprocity, because it's that hard. Like, it's that ingrained into our psychology. It's that ingrained in. So in business, you use this law to your advantage. Free samples at Costco is free samples for a reason. It's not free. You walked in there thinking you were gonna spend $100 and walked out there spending $349 because you got hooked with the law of reciprocity. So it's like, this is one that can be a force for your business, and you use it. And you also know when people are hooking you with it. Oh, here, let me give you a free sample. You can be like, thanks, never coming back because I know what you're trying to do, but thanks for the free sample, because you know that's the law. But in business, use it. When people give free consultations, free game, free advice, free samples, free anything, you got to know it's not free.
Matter of fact, learn to give in your business. So every once in a while, somebody call me that I know that put a relationship with me. No, I need this from you. And I'll be like, yo, I got you for a super discount, crazy discount. In your mind, your brain wants to copy and paste as if that's going to be like that every time you do business with somebody. It never is. And I promise you, every time I gave out that favor or that love, because that was my friends. I didn't do it because I was looking for reciprocity. But I learned to move in the energy without making the energy the focus. That's a big point. We're going to come back to that later. There's been people where I may call Court one day, like, Court, can you make this shirt for Shakira and my family, right? Okay. He might be like, oh, I got you, bruh. Right? And Court will say it. He's done it to me. Dude, I can't charge you more than this. I'm like, fuck, man. Okay. I don't feel obligated to him because it's not transactional, nor does he feel obligated to me. Not transactional. But I know that also what happens is when I'm giving out that energy, not only does Court look out for me when I can't look out for my back, but people who watch the interaction look out for me. And then people even heard about it, look out for me. So you got to learn that when you're doing business, it's not all hardcore transactional. You got to integrate some type of giving built into your ability to make money. Now, I'm going to go a little advanced on you. You can even charge for your gifts. I know that sounds crazy. But when you set your initial price, this is why if you set your price too low, it will also make you play the game of scarcity, and then you don't want to give because you're playing that bottom. You're barely skimming the top, right? If you charge enough money in your business, you could easily say, I'm going to give $1 back to all my clients. I'm going to give $2 back to my clients. I'm giving $2 to my employees. I'm giving $3 to this. And guess what? Now in your world, it's like you're creating this engine that's now generating returns. So all these different spaces are generating returns, and all of a sudden you realize it's like every week, it feels like we're making money. People calling my business. And the reason people are calling your business every week is because you built engines that are generating returns. But too many of us play this transactional game, and every customer is just ability to make money. And as soon as you say that, if you make every person ability to just make money, then you'll take that same gift and it'll work against you. We'll get to that in a minute. Next slide. Oh boy, this is a good one. Our culture that has experienced so much injustice, this is going to be a hard one for you to let go. Fairness is a fallacy. Go ahead, Shabisha.
The single most challenging aspect of this is that two people will rarely agree on what fair means in personal interactions. There is always a perceived unfairness when something goes someone else's way and not ours. Fairness is not objective, it is subjective.
Meaning, if we have different backgrounds and we're negotiating fairness, we'll never arrive there. What's fair to you is not fair to me. What's fair to me is not fair to you. When I look at white culture, a lot of us, all they treat us so unfair. Was it fair to them, though? Or was it unfair to them? Are we trying to measure intent because we're the victims? If we grew something tomorrow, will we be unfair to somebody else? Yes, you would be. Anything you build, let me say this again, anything you build, anything you create, anything you develop is going to be unfair to somebody. Let that shit go quick. That desire to be on the right side of fairness every time will mean that you can't do anything. You can't build anything. You can't grow anything. There's an employee that's going to work for you tomorrow and think they deserve $400 an hour. Because I heard that Jay-Z just hired the same person doing $400 an hour, and they got Jay-Z money compared to your money. And they're going to think it's unfair. It'll be somebody who traveled from another country and think, well, my country, this is way more than I got. So you're paying, and people from his country think he's receiving something unfair based on what they get from their country. Somebody comes from the hood. Somebody comes from a rich neighborhood. You ever seen two people negotiate from two different backgrounds? It's the funniest shit in the world if you've ever hired people before. When I used to hire people, I used to watch white women come in who come from money, and they would start off, they would anchor at the highest number and keep it going. And I watch people come from poverty, and they would come in from, like, if you know, this I can live with this. If you just give me this, I can live with it. And I'm talking about a separation of $60,000 to $100,000 a year. $60,000 to $100,000 a year in difference in negotiation because fairness was killing them. There is no, when you have 8 billion people, which is 8,000 million people on the earth today, 8,000 million people are on the earth today with different backgrounds and broad beliefs. Cut that whole idea of fairness. That's why social justice got you fucked up. Because you're no longer playing the building game, you're playing the virtue and moral game. And you can be virtuous and moral, homeless. There's a lot of homeless people who are so virtuous. They're out there practicing social justice, and they have a area where you can pee behind the tree where anybody can go of any race. Doesn't matter. I don't know. No matter what race you are, you know, if you're making fried chicken, I'm eat yours just like anybody else's. Doesn't matter. We share the same basket. That is not how you build in this world. Unfortunately, fairness is a fallacy. And because everybody has different backgrounds and beliefs, the only thing you can be in this society is equitable. Next slide.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I think I missed the part about how the fairness fallacy applies to the negotiation between white women walking in, anchoring high, and black people coming in just trying to survive. Like, what's the connection to fairness in that scenario?
Yeah, okay. So a lot of times what I was trying to show is that when you have different backgrounds, you come from different spaces, right? Everybody don't have the same beliefs. So when you're sitting at the table negotiating with everybody, you assume the way you think is just the way everybody thinks. So you sit in the office thinking, well, we should almost all have the same amount. You might be getting more money because you're entitled. You never asked. You never asked. You never asked. You think this is what I deserve. It's the same kind of mindset of when you're in that fairness world, you're doing these comparisons based upon a story in your head, not based upon what's really happening in the world. See, fairness exists in your head. It's not the way the world works. Right? When you bought your cell phone, did you ask yourself, was that unfair to the Asian countries who are suffering behind that phone? The resources were areas where people are being abused and dogged. I was just saying this today, Sherpas. We all talk about Sherpa, being a Sherpa, and Sherpa. Do you know that industry was making $300 million a year, and a Sherpa only got paid $5,000 every 2 or 3 months? Did y'all see that price separation? $300 million a year. Here's $5. And some of y'all might have, I love my Sherpa. Oh my God. We at that hotel. You may ask how much that hotel worker makes? Oh, you didn't. Your Uber driver. They ever ask you how much the money? No, you don't care. Because in your mind, hey, he showed up, I paid my money, hey, it's fair. But to that person, they can actually argue the opposite. That's the reality of life we live in. This fairness thing, often you're frustrated because the story in your head doesn't align with the story in other people's head. And you're doing the being right thing. You're not trying to figure out what's in other people's head. You're trying to project what you think is right for everybody else.
I went to Jamaica one year on a little resort, the Sandals Resort. So I'm trying to enjoy myself, but I see people around me, white folks, talking to all of Jamaican, just talking to them disrespectful. So now I'm irritated, right? Mad. So one day I got to the point where I boiled over. So I said, his name is John. Stop calling him like boy. And so first time the dude looked at me like, respect, man, respect, like, thank you. But after a while, they was looking at me like, bro, we ain't tripping, like, chill. Because in my mind, my fairness and equity was American, but they wasn't even tripping off of it. And I had to wrap my head around that my fairness and my equality is not general across the United States. So if somebody says, hey, boy, could you come here? I'm furious, but he's like, man, I ain't tripping off that. And you got to let it go.
In the hood, fairness is totally different than middle-class black folks. Middle-class black folks, fairness is totally different than rich black folks. It ain't the same conversations. Matter of fact, if you poor from the hood and you go have dinner with some rich black folks, you're going to be steaming at the end of that dinner. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's different realities. And even amongst those rich black folks, there's different versions of those black folks. There's the bourgeois to the fight the power rich black folks. And they all have different conversations. And fairness to all of them means something totally different. To get a whole room of people to agree upon one idea of fairness is like impossible because it doesn't exist. It's a fallacy. But your brain believes it's real. And guess what? The media whoops your ass around that. They tell you all the time, I know we got one media person, but she's a real one. She's a true. That's my dog back there. I don't want to, and we love. Plus, she gave me a cough drop. Don't be messing with my cough drops. But anyway, but outside of her thing, you understand me? No, she's not. She's not. But yeah, but fairness. A lot of times, media and opinionated news, they often stimulate these binary arguments of fairness all the time. So, for example, you will see something like. The brother Tyrese, that's his name, right? Tyrese, the brother just got killed? Mm-hmm. Huh? Tyree, right? Okay. So young brother who just died. And so we instantly jump to conclusions because they frame it for us to have one opinion. As an entrepreneur, you have to be able to say, yes, I don't like what just happened. Yes, that makes me sick. But then you have to start to take that same issue and flip it around in multiple angles, right? As you flip it in multiple angles, you realize, oh shit, this is a hard one to call. I'm not saying nothing justifies that physical abuse they did to that boy. Nothing justifies that. So we're not trying to justify that kind of stuff. That's just disgusting. I'm saying when the news delivers information, although Tyree might be a pretty accurate assessment of inappropriate, unequitable treatment of a young black male, between Tyree and say, brother who died with his knee on the neck, George Floyd, there's a whole bunch of opinionated news that's shaping you, using those moments to continue to shape your opinion. And then by time, so for example, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Memphis, Tennessee. If you've been to Memphis, Tennessee, okay, I'm never going back. I'm good. Memphis was hard on me. It was so rough. It took hella hours to get there. And then I got there, it's like, whoa, I'm going home. Anyway, point is this. I don't care shit. Folks from Memphis, sorry folks. Hey man, shit. And I was with my son. He's like, oh, I love this bourbon. I think it's bourbon, whatever street is bourbon or whatever street. I was so over that shit. Fried chicken. I never had so much fried chicken in my damn life. And I might be California, New York, big city spoiled. So fuck it. Like I told you, I camp next to high-end hotels. Anyway, point is this. And so I'm out there, and I'm like, okay, so this young man gets murdered in Memphis. And then the same news, same week, they just named New Orleans murder capital because they had the highest amount of murders, black on black crimes, right? But the media runs to go find people to say what we need to do to Oakland police. I said, okay, I don't get this shit. Like, I'm not saying I'm pro or anti Oakland police, but that's not how the conversation should go. It's like we should be talking about Memphis and that family and that boy. We could be talking about police system as a culture and what is finding that common thread that's causing a certain behavior from police officers to show up to a young black man on that level. Fine. That's an excellent conversation where we should start. But to turn it into, I don't leave my house in Oakland. I don't leave my house in Berkeley. I don't leave my house in Emeryville. That's our brain is not being able to we're holding on to these core ideas, but we're not functioning. We're not processing, right? And so, be aware. Media. This was I posted an article on our page said stop, let the news go, because it doesn't teach you how to think. It's taking away your ability to think and process the world. It's not. I'm not pro or anti anything. I'm trying to say that you can't think, and in this class, I need you to think. Because imagine now you got millions of dollars on the line and you get emotionally swept up and you start making decisions losing all your money. But no, it's not all your money. Let me make it clear. You start helping people lose their jobs. Okay, you start destroying relationships in communities and families because you got emotional, because you stopped thinking. See where I'm going with this? As you go moving into a world of high levels of responsibility, you cannot let something like the media, small little media, pull at cues because you hold on to principles and fallacies that don't exist. And this fairness fallacy, if you go through this, if you say fairness doesn't exist, and then you examine our history, our culture, all the movements, it's going to make you look at them a little different. And if you look at them a little different, you'll probably be closer to the way Martin Luther King was actually a brilliant ass person. And the Martin Luther King that they teach us about is trash. You actually read his material, you be like, this man is fucking a general. He was fucking brilliant in his time. But even with Martin Luther King, you gotta put it in context. Martin Luther King didn't go to California and kill it, in New York and kill it. He stayed in places with small populations. But when they put it on TV, it's like he was in New York, Chicago. And he said, when I went to California and Chicago, there was some other shit. It was overwhelming. It was way more complex than it was in the South. So I'm saying, when you start to look at things to a different lens, why is this important? You say, no, you're just trying to be right. Or he just said don't be right. No, that's not what I'm trying to be right. In order for you to move into this different form of consciousness, you got to learn about principles and ideas that it won't transfer. Next slide.
Ultimately, all perceptions are inaccurate to some degree.
Wait, how many perceptions?
All.
I think what Court just said, he said, ultimately,
all perceptions are inaccurate to some degree.
Shakina, did you hear all too? Okay, I just want to make sure. God, you heard all? Okay, turn to Shamar. Ask Shamar, did she hear all? Did you hear all? You heard all, okay? Because I want to make sure, because you know me, I'm getting older now. I got 55-year-old ears. They don't hear everything the same thing. He hears, my ears are quick to say, you get on my goddamn nerves. That's all I hear. You get on my goddamn nerves. So let's keep it going.
Ultimately, all perceptions are inaccurate to some degree. So an individual can't perceive objective fairness.
Wait a minute. Wait, you said, so an individual can't perceive objective fairness? Did they just say you just can't?
C-A-N-T.
Sometimey.
C-A-N-T.
Okay, keep going.
However, when real life goes against our perceptions of what we perceive as fair,
So when shit works against us,
it creates negative emotion. Anger, hurt, fear, a sense of rejection, and more.
So let me share something with y'all quick. I'm gonna give y'all a little. I'm gonna jump a hurdle real quick. Then I'm gonna come back to this one. That is the first rule of negotiation. This is why I can't stand social justice, because you can't negotiate. You suck. Because as soon as you feel okay, so for example, I sit down with you in business and I say to you, let's say you go to sell me this iPad. You just spent $1,200 for it. And when you spent $1,200 for it, you bought this iPad yesterday. So you said to me, hey, no, I'm selling my iPad because you know what? I realize I don't need that iPad. And you say, Nana, how much would you pay for that? Yeah, how much? Give me something. What do you think this is worth to you, Nana? And I say, I give you $25 for it right now. Depending on how much work you put on this iPad, some of y'all are offended right now. Some of y'all just said in your subconscious, he got me fucked up. Huh? Yeah, that's what you want to say. Then some of y'all will start to, you guys will then retreat to this argument here. Hey, I spent like $12. You just trying to rob me or something? That's not negotiations. You have the right to believe whatever the fuck you need to believe. It's good. Negotiation says whatever you say means nothing to me. The job is for us to negotiate. But the reason many of us can't negotiate because we take the first negotiation offer personal. It's never personal. If I tell you 10 cents, you gotta understand I just use a tool called anchoring. I'm trying to get you as low in your thoughts as possible so we can get out of maybe $400. You better re-anchor me quick as fuck. And say, yo, I was trying to give it to you for a discount for $1,600, bruh. I mean, I give it to you for like best 13, 12, something. And we're gonna get down between those two spaces until we reach a number, and you bet not get beneath 1,000 before walking away. And 1,000 is only because you like me. If you don't like me, then $11.99, $9.99 is your fucking $11.99 is your last fucking number. Yeah, I thought about this all night. Shit, I stayed up all along. Well, actually, I thought about 5 seconds. $11.99 is my last number. And if the person says no, you feel no kind of way about it. But when you're playing the fairness game in your business, every time you have interactions with new customers, clients, or even competitors, you're talking through the lens or through the microphone of fairness, and you suck. And we can see you coming every time, and we take you down every time. I've told people, I walked into rooms with people said, hey, let me ask you something. Are you trained in negotiations? They said, no. I said, then go get somebody else. I said, because I'm going to take you for everything you got if you're not trained in this game. Because all I need to do is hit you with some unfair language, make you uncomfortable, and then play with your feelings. I swear. No, I'm not doing that for you. So, this is important to understand, like this area of fairness. So read this whole paragraph one more time. I'm gonna get back into the paragraph, but I want to give you this. Like I want to kind of give you some insight on some of the negotiation stuff. How fairness is at the heart of why you can't negotiate. Because even if you try to counter, you still got this tightness in your chest, this clog in your thoughts. you don't even have a counter offer because you pissed off. I don't give a fuck about your emotions. And if you can't give me a counter offer, I'm gonna make one for you. So when I say 25 cents, you be like, man, you got this shit. I said, well, how much you trying to sell it for? Ouch. You got me so pissed off, I can't even think right now. I said, okay, tell you what, man, I give it to you. How about 800? I got 800 right here, bro. Come on, let's do this shit. I mean, I may have fucked up. I might disrespect you. I mean, I don't really want the motherfucker. That's why I say 25 cents. But you know what? You my boy, and shit, I fucks with you, and I really like you. Guess why that language work? Now you might think, oh, that sounds. No, you know why all that language works? Because you're emotional right now. You all pissed off. I can tell you how cute you are, how your shoes look nice, how I think your kid was smart and shit, and all kind of little weird. Your car clean, my God. You somebody. You the next Martin Luther King up with this motherfucker. And guess what? Your pockets are getting softer every time I keep talking because you felt emotional from the first offer.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
Here's another one to add to it. And I got another appointment to look at another iPad in like 15 minutes, so I can always go there. That's fear of missing out. Oh shit, he has another opportunity.
Uncertainty.
There. If you in your feelings, then that's gonna get you. And I got 15 minutes. I gotta go. So if we can't come to nothing, I gotta go. You put time, and I have another opportunity out there. It can fuck up an emotional mind.
See y'all? Go ahead. You want to raise your hand? Hey, go ahead. Pass the microphone back there. Tell you ain't fast as you used to be. It's them old days. Go ahead. Just like I gotta hold this stuff. Oh, hold up. Here I come. That's Uncle Jasadi. Go ahead.
I was just thinking how these negotiation tactics work different based in different cultures. How this can be based on like more of our awareness of how we negotiate in fairness, but you can go to, say, like Chinatown or go to a foreign neighborhood, and you got people countering you at the same trying to counter you with different counter offers. They got this iPad over here for $10. He's like, I'll got it for $5. And they don't think of it in fairness. It's a competition game about in who you want to negotiate.
I would say this though: if you put those same Chinese people in a room where they're looking up to somebody, the game changes. That's the funny part. So, because we don't feel like we're good enough, we have a tendency to make that such a broad statement. So remember I told you that when I hired the two black women in my office, I was like, yo, cut this white man being superior language out. Because when you go into that room, that white man could just rattle your cage and all my money's gone. But if they same women went to a room with young black women, they would have mopped them. They don't feel the same way. Same thing with our negotiate with your child. Oh, you great in negotiation. Some of y'all are, depends if the child uses the cry techniques. My daughter be trying to give my wife the business. But let's say your child says, Mama, I want to stay up late. You're like, I'm not. Go to bed. But go to bed. Listen, this is why you have to go to bed. Go to bed, right? But then I watch that same person be in the presence of somebody they highly value, and they don't have that same strength. Backbone disappears. You're like, oh, you was tight as hell at the house. You might even talk shit to all your circle, really strong. But once you leave your small town, we talked about that small town, it's a whole different conversation. And the reality, once again, is that once you into the bigger and bigger world, like, okay, if you're doing small, like for example, if you worked at a flea market, you would probably learn flea market negotiation and you do pretty well. But then if you go from negotiating something that costs you $1, $2 to something that will cost like $30,000 every time you negotiate, things change. Because most of us don't have practice negotiating big expenses. Like the reason people do really well buying a used car but do terrible buying a house, because they're not used to buying houses. And somebody who's really good at buying houses, they probably bought a lot of houses. So it's something you can practice. But before you even get there, going back to that saying no and tying fairness, and that wasn't fair what you offered me, and I felt disrespectful, or why would you even talk to me about that? Why would they not? Like, everybody's looking for a mark, especially a lot of people that's coming from that story of, I came from rough times and I'll do what I have to do to come up, right? Well, you might be the newest Mark. But you got to know when they hit you with that, you got to have your counter moves. Go ahead, Fern. Here come Uncle Shisali. Here I come. I just ate a lot of cupcakes, boy. You know, I can't move like that no more. Anyway, go ahead.
Y'all wrong. That's my boy. Love you.
This is hitting me in a different way because I did myself in on a negotiation this week, like just this past week, and it was rooted in my fairness, like me trying to be fair to somebody.
Oh, yeah, that's the
and
other side
I
of it, yeah.
anchored hella high, and I was like, "Fuck!" So I anchored it, like, man, the conversation was something like, "Man, well, you know, I ain't got this much for you, but man, that shit backfired." And as soon as I said it, I realized, fuck,
Yeah.
I just anchored myself 3 times higher than what I was ever willing to pay. And it was all rooted in this, they black, I want to be fair, I don't want to devalue them. The motherfucker, I mean, the thing was, I was putting my shit on them, not realizing I didn't know what their base was. I could have started at $25, you know? So I was just saying it goes the opposite way. Like for me, it went the complete opposite way, me trying to be fair, and I anchored so high. It was a very great lesson to learn.
Go ahead, Court. Court over here. Court here hyperventilating. I ain't nowhere in the world I'm about to jump in between you and that microphone. Go ahead, bro.
You know, Anana say, get out of the people's pockets. Remember that? Get out their pockets in negotiation. Get out their emotions in negotiation. Get out their feelings in negotiation. Get out your perception of what they are in negotiation, how good they are, how bad they are. Get out of them completely. At that point, it's just a fucking negotiation. And so everything you think you know about that person, you got to act like you don't. Their religious background, how nice they are, their kids, everything. Because people will subconsciously use all those things against you in negotiation. They will. So you get out their pockets. Just as a rule of thumb, when you're about to get on that negotiation table, you don't know what you're just entering into the realm of negotiating. You don't know what their highs, their lows are, what their triggers are. Before you say, that person's a man of God. He's been married for 30 years. His wife seems happy. They have 2 kids running around. He's a good person. Like now he's doing all the work of negotiating with you without having to say a word yet, because you trying to get in his head. Next you know, he like, man, I ain't even asked for all that, but you gave it to me, so cool. Like negotiation is almost like that is the gladiator in the Colosseum. It's those moments where you're dancing, and it's a fun way of having a battle between 2 gladiators, and somebody's gonna get what they want. Maybe both parties get what they want, but your goal is to get what you want.
And so, Kaja, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
To both points. So I was, first a scenario. At one point this week, I had a conversation with someone who I'm not sure if their cultural context was based on what they perceived my experience to be, or if it was the reverse, where I had a context of what I perceived theirs to be. So we weren't having a meeting of the minds.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, and I think I got it from this class at one point, because I could see that the conversation wasn't going necessarily the way I wanted it to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to asking a question about the money.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that they said was, well, what is the cost for such a thing like this? And they had their money person on the call with them. So I decided to reverse the question and ask, what is your budget?
Mm-hmm.
And so at that question, I'm not sure if I was losing out on something or if at that point I'm like, you know what, throw it to the wall. What is your budget so that we can see, because we're basically just going to cut losses at this point. So I'm not sure whether or not that was cultural context getting in the way of something, if it was an implicit bias between, and it was also black people, black women, or if there was like a miss of access to information. So I'm not trying to, the basics of my question is, where do we switch gears when we know, or at least have some kind of idea that we're probably just going, I don't know.
It's called marketing. Yeah. That's what marketing is. So marketing at its core is selling you an idea that doesn't exist in your head before I walked into the room, right? So like when you go into a car dealership and you go there and say you go to buy a truck that's you perceive should be about $35,000, and you get there and the car on the floor is $90,000, and it's plushed, right? You're like, oh shit, I want that one. And they walk you over to that $35,000 and it ain't got nothing on it. That shit, I mean, it got buttons and a door that unlocks like this, click, click. Windows, they still roll out the window, this the one you want, right? And they go, well, you know, I know this 35, that's 90, fair. But for 45, 50, you don't have to roll down the windows no more. And you have turn signals that can kind of talk to you, like, tick, tick, turn me off. Right? So, in the end, you like, oh shit, I want that shit to say tick, tick, turn me off. Right? The cold part is when you get home and you hit that shit and go tick, tick, that shit get on my nerves, right? But in the store, I set up these two contrasting extremes to make the middle now seem like a reasonable offer. Or you may see a store that says, hey, we had these sweatshirts for $500 for the last 6 months. I knew I was going to sell on these goddamn shirts for $500. But we have a big sale, 60% off. $250 now. They $220, $210, whatever, somewhere in that space. And I give you another $20 off and free shipping. Sweatshirt cost me $7, baby. Right? But the thing is that, so if you call me about business, I'm upselling you from the time you call me. I'm gonna upsell you by the way I'm gonna present myself, the way that camera's gonna look when it comes on, the way I'm gonna talk to you, the way I'm going to understand your problem, the way I'm going to show that I'm the authority of the problem, and then I'm gonna start attaching numbers and challenges, and then I'm gonna get into like, well, in a perfect world, a project like this would cost maybe like 80, 90, 100,000. But let's look at the world you live in, the challenges you have, and the time constraints and the resources. By the time we come down, we might be around 35. But based upon your desire to earn trust and achieve your goal at a level of perfection that requires you get your future promotion, 45, 50 is your sweet spot. I did the same thing the car dealership did. Right? I don't care how you feel. When you call me, that's my job to put you in my world. But when I'm fairness, I'm trying to figure out what's right, what's good, what's bad, where should I be sitting? I don't give a fuck. I'm not sitting there. Like, you're in my world.
Hey, do you think it's fair that if in a sunny day you go to a store and there's umbrellas there and you go to buy the umbrella and it's $6 and you decide not to buy it because you know it's sunny. Now it's raining heavy and you need an umbrella and you go back and now that umbrella is $28. Think that's fair? It's fucking is what it is. That's business.
Business.
And I also want to say this. This game that he's giving you, I learned this game. I had to learn and teach from being here at Hope. And this game changed my business. So I'm going to keep this 100 with you. I learned this game from this brother and this class. And if it wasn't for this game and morphing my business into this, then I'd be in a different place. This shit, anchoring, priming, framing, negotiations, it changed the whole landscape of how I did business. So really, like, listen to this shit, because this is probably one of the biggest things that I've used here that I see like crazy results in what I do.
So before, go ahead and get the microphone to Kaja, but before you say some Kaja, so it says, however, when real life goes against our perception of what we perceive as fear, it creates a negative emotion. Black folks, do you understand the cost you're paying every day because you don't think life is fair by being in white America? Do you understand when a white person tells you as privileged, they're just adding some weight to that cost you're paying? Do you understand why you walk around angered, hurt, living in fear, sense of rejection, Black Lives Matter, that sense of rejection, and more? This is not because the way, look, in business, the way white folks came for us during slavery, people come for you like that all the time in business. Am I lying? People come for you. If you got something, if Shakina Gym becomes the hottest gym in Oakland, and it goes public, she cleared $5 million that year. She's going to have competition from rich money coming right around the corner, and she better already have a plan on how to defend herself. And when they come for her, she can't even take it personal. It's part of the game. She has to calculate that into the process. And the cold part is, she still can win. She's not an underdog. But if she's stuck in this space of fairness, right, wrong, as soon as they come for her and they hit her, and her fairness module kicks in, all of a sudden, she disables herself to compete. So part of this game is that you gotta. So what helped me as a pro-black person is, what is the number one goal of being pro-black? Improve the black community. It's not to kill anything else. Just improve the black community, right? It's not. I can't dig motherfuckers up and whoop their ass. Right? I'm like, yo, when I see Lincoln, I'm gonna fuck him up because what he really did. No, I'm not doing that. Right? Oh, George Washington. Oh, I got some shit. No, I ain't got shit for him. Right? And I'm not shooting my bullets into a grave. Them are good bullets. The thing is, hey, y'all say what y'all, I'm from East Oakland. It must should be costing. Anyway, point is this. But the goal is to move things forward. And then moving things forward is putting us in a healthy position to compete. So as I look back at African history and I looked at white folks, first question I had to ask is, well, where did slavery come from? But did anybody ever ask themselves, what were white people living like before they came here? You may know about aristocracy. If you ever get a chance, look it up. You'd be like, holy fuck, that was fucked up. Like, look at Europe. Look at America in its early stages, period. Right, the stories they tell you in TV and the books they wrote was really propaganda. But go back and look at the shit. Like, look at the writings of people just communicating with each other, how fucked up shit really, really was. Like, most of us talk about, you know, the past, like romanticism. And none of y'all going back. None of y'all going back. Y'all won't even go back to 1950, be strictly honest. Them shoes will fuck your feet up. Some of y'all love yourself too motherfucking much. Y'all here? Woo! Different conversation. That's where the word nappy really came from, 1950s. Because that shit they had back then wasn't working the same. Right? So, and shit in the conks, woo, that was abuse to your skin. Anyway, point is this. So, once you go back and you look at white folks, you're like, well, they come from trauma. And hurt people hurt people. And if you look at the way the world ran back then, the way the world worked back then was, I conquer you, then I kill you after I get through conquering you. And that didn't happen this time, which is kind of unique. Randomness. I'm not taking slavery or any of the acts of Jim Crowism off the table because it's all fucked up. But it's relative to our experience. My last point, my father-in-law came out of the house and he said, man, no other race went through what we went through. And I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. Football getting good, ain't it? Because in his mind, only person who's ever been oppressed and enslaved was black people. But then read about China, read about Russia, read about places in Africa, read about South America, read about indigenous people in this country, read about other European nations. You'll be like, fuck. World War I and World War II, I think estimated about 130 million people got killed. 130 million people got killed. The world was only 2 billion. Now we're at 8 billion. We weren't even this large a population. I'm saying once you open your mind up to see the way the world moves in other people's camps, then you realize it may not be fair to you, but it was fair for them. And today it might not be in their interest to be fair. There might be a new fairness that arrived. But this whole idea of the way I feel when it doesn't work out, now I carry all that weight. It's so self-destructive. And if you're gonna be in this game and you battling in this entrepreneur world, ain't nobody trying to give you shit. They trying to get theirs. Go ahead, Katja.
I'm so glad this point of negotiation came up because is it the same thing? I always felt it or heard it as don't play the game if you can't play the game. So if you know you're coming to the negotiation in need, how many rounds of this do you go knowing that you need to secure whatever is on the table in the negotiation?
If you're in a position of need, you're totally weak. You're totally weak. If you're negotiating from a position of weakness, you're the mark. You're the mark. You're the prey. You ain't shit. Really, you're not. But if our brain tells us we're entitled, we're fucking up the game. Doesn't mean that you can't go away from the table and build something to create value in the argument. But to negotiate from a position of weakness is to submit. And so your talent could be your value, right? Or what you created could be your value, or your time could be your value. I'm not saying you don't have value, but if you're not clear about that value and the worth of that value, you ask somebody to give you something. And as long as you ask somebody to give you something, when they decide to play parent, don't be mad. I'm talking about they talk to you like you're their child, or they talk to you like they're your God. They talk to you like you're lesser than them. Don't then try to play me too. It's too late, because you went into it bitching up. Pause. No, I don't want to offend nobody who identifies with Too Short. But the reality is that you became that position at the start. If you move into my house and give me is there sparkling water back there? Because the water ain't gonna work for me. That should be so smooth and soft, and like how me drinking shit is sexy. Don't give okay man. This cough. I'm at the tail end of this cold. Like the worst part is gone. Y'all have no idea. The worst part was I couldn't get out of bed for like 3 days. Kept falling asleep. Yeah, and it's not COVID. I tested 1,000 times, so you don't have to worry. Just I know you worried about that kind of stuff. Don't worry about that. Let me say something about that shit. Anyway, but the thing is this. Hey man, we're gonna start just having like liquor, because when I get sick, I like to sip a little brandy, because it burns. It helps. Yeah, I don't drink any other time. Yeah, you could have look here, brought me a little cognac up here, but I don't know what I would taught y'all then. Y'all be like, what the fuck is he saying, Shabisha? Y'all would just have Shabisha talk to y'all. Anyway, point is this. That's one of the issues when you're in that fairness world too, because you're going, I am somebody. You don't realize being somebody requires you to be somebody. Do somebody shit. Right? You want to be valuable? Do valuable shit. Right? And a lot of times in this fairness world, when you go from the fairness to the entrepreneur world, you think people should acknowledge you for being in a room, for being the only black woman in the room, for having some knowledge in the category. When you get a job and you're at this table with other employees, they may give you titles, but y'all have equal value, which is very low. I mean, I could drop one of y'all and replace you. You'll know if you're special because you're hard to replace. Even your interview is totally different, right? But when they bring you in because you have a degree, you're very low value. It's not in our interest to put high value people in roles that can compromise our business. But we put together a group of people who can perform a complex task, and even though you may have been the most successful person on the team, doesn't mean your value is there. Now, if you grow and invest in yourself in a particular area while you're in that company where you become irreplaceable, your negotiations now change. So you can walk in the room and be like, yo, I know everybody's in the office getting $100,000. I want 200. And if you invest in your value, that person has to consider that argument.
No, I agree with that. I hear you. I feel like I'm not coming into it with any of those presuppositions. In fact, I feel like I'm coming into it understanding you're new. Most people who you're interacting with right now are already on. You're trying to get on. So what leverage do I really have to be negotiating with anybody? Because more times than not, I need them. They don't need me.
Well, no, that's a little too sharp. Because if I sell apples, you don't need apples. I need you to buy my apples. I need to make some money, right? I can easily say that. But I have apples. My job is to market apples, make apples valuable. The problem is if I didn't have apples, all I had to have was drawings of apples, and people are hungry, right? And some of us are in fucking restaurants we're at the flea market trying to sell a drawing of an apple, and we don't have no fucking apples, right? And a lot of times it's because in our community where we come from, we were valuable because we drew apples, and we made money in that community for drawing apples. The hood, the friends that we hung around. Now we go to general market, them motherfuckers hungry. And, okay, so now, let's say I'm going to Court because Court has a fruit stand, and he's selling all kind of fruit. This is where giving kicks in. Court, can I work at your fruit stand at least once a week for free? Right? I can build some leverage for free, and number two, I can get what I want for free, which is learn from him, right? But I can't come to Court and be like, yo, let me work for you real quick, Court. You know what I'm saying? I don't know much about apples, but I ain't got that much experience, but just let me in, you know, because I got will and desire. Court is trying to compete. He don't let motherfuckers from Mossville Park play on the Warriors. Don't work at Mossville Park. It's a famous street. Court. Okay, just because I know you're from different part. You're from Atlanta. You're like, what the fuck is a Mossville Park? So the point is that, and I had this before where people like say, when I was in commercial photography, and guys would come to me who were designers or makeup artists, or women would come to me or makeup guys, because you know we had a full spectrum of genders in my world, and so I would have people come to me from different backgrounds saying, "Hey, can I collaborate with you guys on these big shoots?" And I would look at them and go, "Okay, I don't know what your work looks like," and they didn't have a reputation that preceded them, but they had a story of how good they were, which is subjective. And I would look at them like, okay, volunteer, fool. At least let me see you are good at something, and then give me a motivation to make an offer. So, once again, negotiation is, can I see your value? Can I recognize your value?
Value. You're negotiating your value every single time. And I think I come across this too, is that we've been taught through this social justice shit, like, you know, know your worth. Know your individual worth is different from knowing your value in business. You don't put the two together, because if you sell me on your worth and I sign on the dotted line and say, okay, you want to charge me $1,000 for X because that's market rate, and you ain't done it before, and you give me $50 worth of work, now I'm pissed. You got to always make sure that if you negotiate your value, you deliver more than that. You give them $1,200 worth of value. So they're like, oh, I fuck with you. I need more of that. So your value and your worth is two different things. In business, it's all quantitative. It's numbers. You're doing the math at all times. You're doing math equations. So that's why it's always good. If you come in, you don't have no value yet, you say, hey, I work for you for free. Let me get in here, and I'll show you over time my value. Then that's already valuable to that person. Just zero skill, but free labor is already valuable. Now, all right, cool. Then over time, it's like, all right, I got to start paying you now because you're providing value. Now you're learning. And it gives you an upside to gain the skills and knowledge you need to start having value. Now let's have a sit down, because look, Nana, I done made you about 100 G's this year, and I've been just volunteering. I know, I've been doing the math. Like, don't go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? No, don't go nowhere. And that's how you build value.
Yeah, and even in that process, so DeMondre, so I have two people on my team that I poured into, and they became amazing. Well, actually, 5 people on my team that, 6 people, 7, shit, I probably a lot. Okay, a lot of people. Anyway, but a lot of them came to me from a space of put me on. Cola, this is no lie. I'll get to the office at 7 o'clock in the morning. Cola will be sitting on my stairs with a bag of lunch waiting for me to show up. No, I get there. Yeah, I get there 7. He got there before 7 with a bag of lunch just sitting there. Hey, Chief, what are we doing today? For a whole year, if you saw me, you saw him by his choice. DeMondre would come to me. First time he came to me, he showed me his work. I was like, yo, your work is trash, dude. And he tried, what about this? I don't care what anybody's saying. Shit's trash. It won't go nowhere. So then, this is the old Nana. I didn't have no nice space for nobody. So I would say, okay, this is what you need to learn first. Okay, I'm gonna teach you the exposure triangle. So I teach him, take him like 30 minutes, teach him. The next day he'd show up, he had watched hella videos, read hella books, and would go to levels about the exposure triangle. I'd be like, wait, what? Every time I gave him a dime, he came back with $20. Oh yeah, no, you gonna be on my team, bro. I ain't gonna let nobody else pick you up. And so what I'm saying is that where some people that come on my team, they literally sit on the sideline being entitled. Yeah, you gonna respect me. You gonna see me at some point. I still don't see you. You're not. Now that Marjorie has the skills, he don't need me no more. He chose to, collaborate with me, but he don't need me. Some of y'all, because you get into this fairness and oppression and you got to go down to this humility to get to that next level. But you can't get to that next level because you guys want to just jump from, I was at the top of the world when I was in my small town, and now I'm going to be at the top of the world in this big town. Nobody know you like that. You at the bottom of the game again. And if you don't have the humility to say, hey, let me go to the bottom. And when you go to the bottom, do you carry all this weight of oppression and victimization and fairness and war is me and my ancestors where I came from, and this is why I can't do it no more. I promise you this happens. In all the years I've been working with my people, we take those stories that keeps us from serving the necessary time to get to the next level, which is no different than the person who goes to college, right? We can first get to college. That first year, it's a fragile space. You putting your time in. You ain't part of no fraternity or so. You just come to class, get your F or A, what the fuck you gonna do? And something in between, right? Over time, you can find ways to smoothen the process out and reduce the amount of input. And then when you leave college, in some cases, you can actually capitalize on that time. So it was kind of a forward stage. Same thing in this entrepreneurship. At some point, you got to have people you learn from and be humble. And as you show up, like I was talking about my team today, and I came in, the chairs was shit. So I walked in, I'm sick too. But it was shit. So I walked in, and it's like, yeah. I said, the chair set up? It's like, yeah. I said, what is this shit? So I started jamming about, like, how are you guys thinking about time and space? So then I could feel this attention starting to grow because I know how I talk. And then I thought to myself, oh, they probably feel like victims right now. So then I went a step further. I said, you guys feel like victims? And if you do, I didn't let them answer because I don't want to hear long. Josh could talk a long time, a lot of words. But the point is this. So I said, if you do, let me say this. You have to understand how you show up affects the way people show up to you. You got to walk into this room and own this fucking space. Once you show a lack of ownership or lack of attention to details, then when people start talking to you a certain kind of way, start thinking about, instead of you getting upset, focus on whether the person was talking to you, take some time and go, damn, why are they talking to me like that though? Now it's different, you got somebody that's like mentally crazy. They just scream at everything. They scream at babies, they scream at roaches on the wall, they scream at everything, all right? Then, fuck it, person crazy. But if you see him talking nice to court and turn to Shakina and be like, look, man, can you do this shit or not? Ask yourself, how have I positioned myself to be in that space? Let me add this concept, and then I'm gonna go to my last slide. I'm gonna skip because we're not going. I'm slowing down, so I don't care about speeding this up because I need you guys to get this shit. So we didn't even get into the subject yet. But I'm going to stop at this point and then I'm going to get to the closure. In business, you know what matters more than intelligence? The way you position yourself. Positioning is more powerful than intelligence.
That might go over their head, but that's powerful.
you go get. I love my brother. Man, you gonna have me laughing though. That was such a real black moment. I don't think y'all feel it like I can feel it. That was like, I feel like I was in a black movie, and that scene, I was like, scene. That was so black. Brothers need that. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a black man, you need that. Anyway, in business, we constantly think we got to be the best at shit. We got to learn to position ourselves in our business.
Man, whew.
And a lot of the shit, you will never get to that conversation of positioning if you're stuck in fairness. Because fairness will have you trying to prove that you're highly intelligent, and you think that is your leverage. And your leverage is to position yourself better in business. Right? Go to the last slide.
You just gonna leave? You just gonna leave?
Cause I gotta get the last one, man. I'll get back to it. I promise you, I'll jump back in that one. Go to the last one.
That was crazy.
You can say, guys, see, I got. So, you guys can see it. This is the last slide. Go back up. Let me say this real quick. And I decided that, so the way this class is structured, we're Corey's focusing on a lot of personal ways of thinking, and I'm focusing on strategy to complement the personal work that he's working on, and then often intertwine some things. But I wanted to focus on the value of hope overall. I think next week's our last free class, actually. And we're going to give you one more week of not being on Miro. Week after next, we're on Miro. Oh, actually, because I won't be here. I'm going to be gone. We have the next. So in 3 weeks, we're going to be on Miro. And that's mean that we have to, if you haven't created your own profile online, stop being lazy about it. Do it. And stop being scared. Stop being scared. I ain't calling nobody a coward, but stop being scared. Anyway, but I want to talk about overall something that I noticed. So as we know, everybody knows what a Sherpa is. I mean, it's kind of now common language. And me and Court consider ourselves Sherpas to you guys, online as well as in the room. And which then brought me to kind of like reflect. And quite often, I thought about when people climb Mount Everest. There's 200 dead bodies, 200 plus dead bodies on the side of Mount Everest. And there's a lot of people never make it to the top. Most people never, ever make it to the top of Mount Everest. They make it to a certain plateau, but they didn't make it to the top. And one of the reasons is that when people show up, they often show up personally motivated. You know, they may have read a couple self-help books, a couple seminars, talked to people, became super motivated. I'm gonna climb Mount Everest. They even built their own personal story about how they're gonna climb Mount Everest. And when they meet the Sherpa tells them, let's go over and audit all your tools, your clothing, and your gear. And the Sherpa may grab a hook and go, this hook just doesn't make sense to me. And you know, your ego will tell you, that's so petty. Why does that even matter? It's ridiculous. And the Sherpa will continue to tell you small things like, yeah, those buttons on that shirt, it's just not the right buttons. You know, oh my God, this dude's just being too much. Too many details. It's just irrelevant. And we don't realize is that the Sherpa understands the journey you're going to go on. See, the first guy that taught you about going up Mount Everest may have never even climbed Mount Everest. And they give you all this motivational talk about how great it's going to feel because they saw it on TV. They've heard testimonies. They get you real excited about the whole idea. Tell you that, you know, at some points it'll be real cold. You don't know, but he doesn't know what cold is, nor do you. At some point, the winds can hit 150 miles per hour, and you're thinking, yeah, I've been around some strong winds before in East Oakland. I get it. the Sherpa knows the fucking journey. And the Sherpa may hit you with a lot of details that in your brain may seem, I don't need that one. I don't need this one. I don't need that one. Which reminds me of this couple. And they told the couple, when the couple was climbing, make sure you anchor your tent properly. And the couple said, nah, we good. She said, hey, just make sure you anchor that tent. Well, that night, that wind came, 150 miles per hour. Off that mountain they went. This class, Hope, and becoming an entrepreneur is like climbing Mount Everest. When you guys are coming here with all these preconceived notions of how to climb a fucking mountain, and none of you been up this fucking mountain. And most of you guys are going to try to filter out what is necessary, what's unnecessary. That's small, that's important. It might be small to you because of where your consciousness is, but to us, it's deep as fuck. Because we've been up that hill before, up that mountain. And going up that mountain, motivation doesn't get you up there. They tell you at a certain point of that mountain, if you don't hit a certain point at a certain time, go back. Because the low oxygen and the temperatures will create this mental high that keeps you delirious and will cause you to fall. To just stop. If you don't get past a certain time, you ain't gonna make it. And there's been people that said, nah, it can't be all that serious. I got strong will. Strong drive. I can figure shit out. And he did. Because at the end of the day, there's rules to this game. And your willpower, your history of being intelligent, remember, your greatness of your past has nothing to do with the greatness of your future. And these principles, these ideas that we're teaching you, you don't get to dismiss them because you didn't like the way I said it. Maybe I didn't make it sound feminine enough. Maybe I didn't put an LGBTQ plus twist on it. Maybe it was too Latino or too black. Regardless of how in the fuck, maybe I used too much bass in my tone, and maybe I should have used a high-pitched voice to sound like Michael Jackson. I don't know what the fuck you need. But what I can tell you is that you gotta get past this whole idea of thinking that what you know gives you the right to filter out what you don't need to know. You know, she asked me to do that, and I know I can't do it again the same way. I know it's gonna sound like this dude. Like what he said was, "What you know is what you know." You know what I'm saying? No, ain't what he said. Okay, what? It's we're living through the limitations of what we know, and we sit in this class and we're filtering out things that doesn't. We're trying to take the idea that we already preconceived on how to get up that mountain, and anything you tell me has to fit that perfect model of what I think it takes to get up top of that mountain, knowing your ass ain't never been up top of that mountain before. And the reason this class is different than most classes, because we climbed the mountain. That's what we do for a living. We have the DNA for this shit. So when we tell you, yo, your DNA is kind of soft. Now, there's ways you can get up there, but you want to take a little soft path. Oh, you don't know me. Oh, you don't, oh, you're that macho shit. No. It's because when you get to this point of the mountain, that kind of mindset ain't going to make it. It ain't going to make it. And you can be celebrated at the bottom because you're the loud, the fun person, the cool person, the most attractive person, the buffest person, the fastest person, and going to be the deadest person. So I'm going to close out on that one. I just leave it the deadest. I'm going to leave you just right there. Hey, if Netflix can do it, I'm going to do that shit. All right? With that being said, turn the goddamn screen off, Josh.